Welcome to the 10th episode of the Meeple Society. We are a podcast about board games hosted by 4 longtime role players turned avid board gamers. My name is Katie.
I'm Jessica.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Greg.
Can you believe we're at 10 episodes already? Okay, so honestly, it feels like a little more than that to me because of all the YouTube stuff, but still, we're at 10 episodes. I feel like that's a milestone.
Yeah.
No,
Definitely.
Okay, and in true milestone fashion, we're going to do something a little bit different today. On this episode, we are going to talk about our top 10 games, but with a little bit of a twist. All of the games in the top 100 on BGG are completely off limits to us. Before we get started, can I just say this was a lot harder than it sounded when we first started talking about this a few weeks ago.
Yeah, definitely. Some of my favorites actually fell in the top 10 there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was shocked how many of mine were in the top 100. So, and don't get me wrong, when I started making my preliminary list, I came up with like 25 games I really like. I didn't think I'd come up with that many outside of the top 100. So it was hard to narrow it down.
Mm-hmm.
My whole list is games that if somebody said, let's get this to the table, I'm like, I'm in. Put it on the table. Let's play it.
Well, yeah, but I took off a lot of them that I would feel that way about.
Right. I took
So
our list and took off all the ones out of the top 100, which was half. We had like 5. Well, no, we had quite a bit of them in there.
yeah.
Took those out and then took out ones as I go, no, I'm not going to play these. I'm not going to play these. I think I ended up with a list of about 30 games I had to go through.
I think I started with about 20 something and I got it down to 12 fairly easily. Taking off those last 2 were painful.
I think I only had about 13 and maybe 15 at the most. I was actually surprised that I only remember at this particular moment 2 that were within the top 100.
Mm-hmm.
I had
wow.
some that were skirting, but I only had 2 that were in the top 100.
So you got lucky then. You just put them in order.
Yeah, I may have had a total of 18 or 19 before I cut out everything in the top 100.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point it cut down to about 15 and I had to cull a couple. There were some fairly easy culls, either because they just don't make it to the table with any kind of regularity, or just because there was something about them that didn't grab me as much as the ones that became my top 10.
Right. Because most of mine we've played recently. I mean,
yeah, my problem is you don't necessarily like the ones I consider my top 10, so we don't play them very often.
Right.
Guess what? They're going to be on our list next year. Yeah, whatever.
Some of mine I may not have, played as many times, or some of them may actually still be new to our collection.
Mm-hmm.
But so maybe that aided in them. Number 1 being much lower ranked, and not as popular, not within the top 100.
Mm-hmm.
And number 2, they kind of, because they're still new and shiny, they kind of keep the excitement level up. So, if we revisit this in a year, my list may be completely different.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I've got 3 games on my list from 2020, and that's the newest of the games.
Yes.
I think I've only got 1.
The oldest one looks like 2011.
I
So
think my oldest is 2008.
Mm.
I've only got 1 from last year on here. The rest are from earlier this decade.
My oldest is 2007, and the vast majority of mine are sometime between 2016 and 2020.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. Mine are too.
It looks like my oldest one is from 2009.
Okay.
Uh-huh. My lowest ranked game is 3,309.
Oh gosh, mine was in the 3,000 range, I believe. Yeah, 3,200, 3,264.
5804.
Okay. But you like, yeah, your
I like
gaming
some
collection
I
is-
like some quirky games anyway. So.
You do. You do.
I got y'all beat 6,155.
Wow.
And I like quirky games.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I put this on some multimedia. I always say multimedia, social media sites, and some people understood the question. Other people didn't quite understand it because I said, "What is your top 10 games not in the BGG top 100?" I got a lot. I was like, "Who cares what's in the top 100?" Or all my games are in the top 100, and I only have one game that's not in the top 100. I was like, read the question,
Everybody's
people,
special.
please. Yeah, please read the question, right? But we got a lot. We had like 400 some odd entries of total games, 436 total games entered.
Yeah.
And some, well, we had a lot that were duplicated or triplicated, or so it'll be interesting to see. I think we're going to at least have one 5-way crossover, meaning all 4 of us has picked it in the top 10, and the people have picked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Between
I
me-
think we'll have one. I don't think we'll have much more.
Yeah, and I think between me and Katie, we're gonna have 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
how
think
have we done
between-
with you guys.
I think between me and Jess, we'll probably have 4 or 5.
You think so?
I think so.
Jess is acting
You
like she
think
has some
so?
secret information over there.
Mhm.
Secret.
Looking back
No,
through
he's
my list
probably
here.
She's gonna pull out Quest out of her butt or
No.
something. Like that.
75 Nomi Street. No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I think there is going to be one crossover that everybody's going to have, including the people.
Yep.
I think
we'll,
so.
We'll see when we get there.
Mm-hmm.
10,
Okay. Well, to kick this off, how about I start?
Okay.
And I'm going to start with my number 10 is Terra. Terra was published in 2013 by Rio Grande Games. Designer is Chris Handy. Plays 2 to 5 players, roughly 60 minutes playing time. BGG rating is 7.1. I personally rated it a 7.5. The ranking is overall ranking of the game is 1743 on BGG. Now in Terra is a group of 5 coastal cities in Italy known for their beauty and their culture. In the game, players act as farmers and operate a cart that they use to harvest produce and then deliver it to one of the 5 villages to sell. Sold produce is tracked on a fulfillment card, which is your player board, and then used to complete produce orders for each of the villages, which ultimately is worth points. So it boils down to a pick up and deliver style game that you have 8 different items you're picking up from 3 different sets of fields on the board, and then dropping the various items off at one of the 5 villages to either get points or to sell. In which you're selling them at market price and thus getting points for them. I really like, I like this game. I don't know if it's just because it's one of the first ones we ever picked up, or if it's a different pick up and deliver type of game. You're picking things up from one area, you're delivering to another area, which is pretty much every pick up and deliver game now that I think about it, but that's beside the point. I don't know. Maybe it's just the flavor of Italy. I like this game. We discovered this game shortly after we came back from Italy.
Mhm.
And maybe that's why it kind of has a special place for me.
I can get that.
Yeah.
The best part of the whole game is the little trucks.
Oh, the little trucks are adorable. They're just little bitty cart trucks. And I've seen pictures on BGG where people have substituted Matchbox pickup trucks for the trucks.
Aw.
It's just absolutely adorable. So
This is
very
one of the
cute.
games. She loves this game.
We have not
Yeah,
played this
okay.
game in a very long time, and it's whether you like it or not, it's going to end up on our list for next year. So just
I
warning you
figured.
now.
Yeah, this is one of the games she likes. I don't really like, but I play because she likes it.
Yep.
And she usually beats me. So
Yep.
That's probably why you don't like it.
That's exactly why he doesn't like it.
okay.
All right. So my number 10 is Sagrada. And this is one of the ones that I feel like we may end up seeing on more than one list. It's published by Floodgate Games in 2017. It's designed by Adrian Adamuske. Sorry, guys. Adamescu. and Daryl Andrews. It ranks 151, so we're cutting a little close there. It's got a score on BGG of 7.5, 1 to 4 players, 30 to 45 minutes. Mechanics are dice rolling, drafting, pattern building, and set collecting. I mean, if we don't know what Sagrada is by now, it's actually, I think it's a pretty fundamental game. A lot of people should have it. 30 to 45 minutes might seem like a little investment. It's not like one of those 15-minute games, but it's a good game. It's a quick game. It's, you're basically you've got these beautiful stained glass windows, and you've got these really pretty translucent colored dice.
Mhm.
And you've got your cards that tell you what patterns, either by color, by numbers, different combinations. You score different points at the end. You've got individual goals, you've got group goals, and ultimately you come off with this really, really pretty presentation of a stained glass window built out of translucent resin dice. I mean, it's a really pretty game, and I think everybody should probably own it or at least have played it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Definitely.
For a dice game, it is definitely one of the prettiest I've seen.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, we were really excited when we seen this at Gen Con one year, and we demoed it. We was excited to see it come out, and as soon as it came out, we got it.
Actually, kind of surprised that it was only 2017. It just seems like it. I don't know. It should
seems like it's an older.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Mark, what you got?
All righty. Before I start, I want to real quick say that one game that I almost put onto my list was Once Upon a Time, but it feels less like a game and a little bit more like an interactive storytelling experience. So that said, my number 10 is actually Call to Adventure. It's by Brotherwise Games, designed by Johnny and Christopher O'Neill in 2019. It's 845 on the BGG list of top games. It's a 7.2 rating. Now, having just gone over that Once Upon a Time didn't hit on my top 10, I'm giving you this. Call to Adventure is essentially pretty close to the same thing, only that it's a little bit more regimented. It's a game in which you're crafting a fantasy hero story from his or her origins to the end of the tale, using almost like a tarot style deck layout, where you have an act 1, an act 2, and an act 3. You start off the game with an origin card that basically says what your hero or heroine's origin is, and it kind of gives you a little bit of a hint to their backstory, and then sort of leads you on a path that you create throughout the game to tell the story of your hero by taking on particular traits or taking on particular challenges on the cards in Act 1, then Act 2, then Act 3. You also can tend your character towards light or darkness with your choices, and you gain experience as you go on. All the cards have particular icons that can be set collected to lead towards end game goals, and give you a better chance to complete challenges further on in the game. And then there are story goals, particularly for end game scoring. And in the end, basically you're asked, just go ahead and describe your hero's story. So in a sense, kind of everyone wins, even if they don't have the most points. First of all, the art on the cards, both the original games and all the expansions that I've seen, is just flat out beautiful. It comes with runes as opposed to dice that you chuck to basically handle challenges and everything like that. And these are nice and chunky. They're kind of heavy resin. They feel good in your hand. And they're a pleasure to toss. And the theme of the game, crafting a story of a hero, it shines throughout the entire game. And on top of that, the game really does not overstay its welcome on the table. That's something that I think you guys will find throughout my list, is a lot of times I lean towards games that I can get out there, get played, and put back in a kind of limited time, because a lot of times we don't have all that extra time. This one does not overstay its welcome. It's out there, you play it, it's done, usually inside of an hour, hour and a half tops. It's just a beautiful game.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds cool. I've seen it, but
Never checked it out.
yeah, checked it out. See it on the shelves. Okay, my number 10. It is actually the highest ranked of all my games. It is actually ranked 141 on the BGG ranking. The rating on BGG is 7.6. I'm not sure what I ranked it. It came out in 2004. It's a Ted Allspot game from Bezier Games. It's Castles of Mad King Ludwig. I love this game.
Okay.
I mean, it's a lot like Suburbia. Kind of has the same feel. You're building your own castle version of Mad King Ludwig's castle. You happen to draft different room tiles to add on. And the ongoing joke about this game is, does anybody ever finish building their castle?
No.
Because you go until, what is it? It's 3 piles of rooms are gone.
Yeah.
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think.
And after that, you will add up your score. And the one with the most points wins. You've got different tiles that you get that gives you little secret ways, things so you can get points for. So you go on, plus you got the ones up on the board that you're fighting for, the public ones. You could probably put the Palace of Mad King Ludwig on this one too, with this, because it's almost the same thing, except for it's one castle. It's a lot the same. You're still drafting tiles, but
Yeah.
everybody's playing the same one. So you could try and cut off the person who's trying to build over here, and he needs like one more to get this big extra bonus point, and you just cut him off with a moat or something. But both of them are really good. You also got Between the Castles of Mad King Ludwig, which is kind of like it, but not really. It's more like Between Two Cities with the Castle of Mad King Ludwig theme.
Right. You've got the same tiles as actually the palace, the same type of tiles, but yet you're playing in conjunction with, it's kind of almost a semi co-op, if that makes sense. You're playing together with the people next to you, but yet you're still trying to beat the people next to you. It's an interesting concept. It allows for 7 players to play, and we've always played it in large group context because of that.
Yeah, with this one, we actually backed the Kickstarter on this on the colossal
On castles,
one
for
Castles of Mad King Ludwig. So they're coming. We got a regular version, well, a deluxe regular version, if there's such a thing, and then we have the colossal version, which are the tiles are like 3 or 4 times its normal size.
Okay, let's not joke here. That's why I wanted to back it, is for those colossal. I don't think there's any way it'll fit on our table, but I don't care. I wanted it anyway.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a huge table.
We're gonna be playing it on the floor.
Right?
Now the original is Castles of Mad King Ludwig, right?
Correct.
Yes,
And that's what
that's
the new
one.
Kickstarter is too.
We have that one, and it's like, I love it. It's a great game.
Yep,
But
it's
it's
right
like-
here, just on
It's
the other
like
side of Mark.
patchwork on hard mode.
Yep.
Yes.
It's right over Mark's left shoulder.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I see it there.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere.
9, 8,
Okay, so my number 9 is Marvel Legendary. Came out in 2012. Produced by Upper Deck Entertainment, designer Devin Lowe. Plays anywhere from 1 to 5 players in roughly 30 to 60 minutes per game. BGG rating is a 7.6. I rated it about an 8. The ranking is 180. I honestly thought this would be in the top 100 because it is so popular, but I don't know if maybe some of the other Marvel stuff that's been coming out lately have kicked it down some, which is probably why it's not.
Probably.
Marvel Champions. Probably.
Yeah. I'm not sure there's a whole lot to say about this one. I feel like Legendary has been around for a long time in multiple forms and genres. Marvel is definitely my favorite of the Legendary games. We have a couple, I guess. But Marvel is definitely my favorite. It's a deck building game set in the Marvel universe where players work together to combat one of many possible evil masterminds, which are all villains from the Marvel universe. Can't talk today. Villains from the Marvel universe, such as Loki or Doctor Doom or even Red Skull. I like the fact that you are not just tied to one character like you are in so many deck building games, that you actually have multiple abilities you can play. You're not just tied to that one character with his one special ability or set of abilities. The hero deck is built out of 5 different characters. It could be completely random. It could be chosen. You could play with one specific set or just, pick cards out of the stack, which is usually what we do. Everyone recruits their personal decks from that same selection of heroes. There are a ton of expansions to this, and they're constantly adding new ones. So new heroes, new villains. even though the game plays out fairly similar each time, there are so many possible combinations. It never feels the same to me. It plays like a co-op. Everyone works together to take out the one central mastermind, but yet if you want to play for points, there is an MVP of sorts, the person who takes out the most valuable villains ultimately gets the MVP of the game. So
This is one of my favorite card games,
yeah.
but it didn't even make my top 10.
Oh, that's because you don't know anything. But it is my favorite of the deck builders.
My number 9 is Paperback. It's published by Fowers Games in 2014, designed by Tim Fowers. It ranks 469 on BGG. They also give it a score of 7.2. It's 2 to 5 players and about 45 minutes a game. Mechanics are card drafting and deck building. Basically, you get this nice like tableau of cards you get to choose from. You have cards that equal money, and you're buying cards and you're spelling it out. It's basically Scrabble, but with cards. And except instead of pulling blindly, you're actually, kind of, you see these cards and you've got to buy them before the other person gets them. And sometimes there's like letter combinations, and in theory, that's great. And sometimes you just, you're kind of stuck with these weird these weird GH. And if you just don't have the other letters to consistently make words that end with GH, then you've just kind of got this card in your hand. But it's just it's a really great game, and it's got a great theme. You're the author Paige Turner, and all these cards have different kind of retro themes on them, like time travel and sci-fi and Wild West, and it's I don't know, it's a very cute, and it says 45 minutes, but again, it's a quick game.
It is, yeah.
But it's definitely for somebody that that's good at spelling, that has a good vocabulary. It's not a game that I would want to play with my 8-year-old, because I feel like we'd whip her. You never know.
I don't know.
Yes, I don't know. Your 8-year-old is pretty smart.
Yes.
No. This one just missed my top 10. This is actually one of my favorite deck building games. It's I like the fact that you'll get different letters and you'll put them into your discard pile and then shuffle them up, and then you're drawing a hand and going, okay, what kind of words can I make out of that? It's a great brain exercise, and I really enjoy this game a lot.
Yeah, we picked this up on a marketplace sale, didn't we, Katie?
I don't remember. Probably. I don't remember exactly where we got it. I know I didn't pick it up in a normal store. I don't remember if it was Goodwill or if it was something else, but yeah, we've played it a few times, and I really do enjoy it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I'd like it or not, but
yeah, I wasn't sure I'd like it based on the premise, but I was pleasantly
game.
surprised at how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely.
As far as deck building games, I like Dominion, but Dominion was in the top 100, so that one could not make my list.
Yes.
And Paperback and Sagrada, I feel like they both were kind of, compared to the rest of my list, Paperback and Sagrada were like unevenly matched. So I had to use EPUB, because it was like, well, which one would you rather play, this one or this one? And I'm like, well, how much time do I have? Did I get a full night's sleep, or am I going to be nodding off during this game, which happens way more than it should sometimes. But so Sagrada and Paperback, I feel like are going to be very different than the rest of the games on my list, but these two are definitely some of my favorites, and they needed to be on it. They just Pub Meeple ended up knocking them to the bottom, but that's okay.
Yeah, Pub Meeple knocked a couple off my list I was surprised about, but hey, that's all right.
All righty. My number 9 is It's a Wonderful World by Lucky Duck Games and La Boîte de Jeux. Designed by Frederick Girard in 2019. It's 148th on the BGG top 100. It's got a 7.9 rating. And believe it or not, card drafting games generally do not hit me very high. I like the idea of them. I generally don't mind playing them, but they just never really stay with me. It's a wonderful world, though, with its like wonderfully dystopian, has cards with the lost city of Atlantis and teleportation gates and nuclear powered tanks. It somehow manages to hit both that quirky feel that enhances like simple, the simple card drafting technique, to the point where you're actually using those drafted cards to build an engine and gain your resources. And because of that little change in the dynamic, that's actually made it one of those that hits me like right in the sweet spot. It really helps that the components are good too. The game could have had like really simple wooden cubes and cardstock thin board to use as the play area, but you have to admit that those resin quality cubes really like give it something a little bit extra. And the art has this wonderful 1950s meets sci-fi manner that just works really nicely, even like with the iconic look of the financier and the general, just has almost like what you would see in like propaganda posters, which just that's freaking awesome. I like everything about the game. I like the mechanics. I like the build of the engine and everything like that, where you're having to pay by gaining resources, and then every round you're saying, okay, so who's got the most of this, and in that case, okay, well, you're getting something out of it. It's just a really nice game. I really enjoy it, and I would be surprised if I'm the only person who has it on their top 10.
And when you say retro, it doesn't mean like that kind of like color block look. It's more things like Norman Rockwell esque. It's got a painting look to it, showing people that you can definitely get this 50s vibe from them. So it's definitely not. It's not the art is not simplistic. The art is very, very detailed. So definitely think more Norman Rockwell feel as opposed to color flats kind of look.
Right.
Yeah. I think I like it a lot. I like Race for the Galaxy, which this game is somewhat like, because you've got cards, you're trying to build things, and Race for the Galaxy, you're trying to build things just like that, using cards to get resources, or in Race for the Galaxy, you're using cards to actually build what you're trying to build. But it's got a little bit of Race for the Galaxy vibe to it. So, but yeah.
Card drafting, yeah.
Yep. I liked this one. Okay. So my number 9 is my card game that I like. It's 570. I just updated all my BGG rankings. It's ranked 570 on there. It's from Tasty Minstrel Games. It has a flat 7 rating on BGG. It's from 2011 from Seth Jaffe, and that's Imminent Domain. Love this game.
Why I didn't think this would be there. I'm not surprised by this.
What? I love this game.
No, you do. I agree. That's why I said I don't know why I'm surprised it was on your list, because you do love this game.
We have all the expansions. It's is kind of like it kind of reminds me a little bit of like the what game am I trying to think of here? The big
I don't know.
TI4.
Oh.
Twilight Imperium 4. It's kind of like a miniature game of Twilight Imperium using just cards, because you're trying to take over planets. You have ships that you can go military to take over the planets hastily or hostile. Yeah. Or you can use people and colonize the planets to get it. And plus the planets give you resources and stuff. It's really cool. I mean, because you also have cards where it's got that follow-up mechanism in it. So if I'm playing a card, I'm doing this as my action. And then on the next card I play I'm like the leader on it. So I get a special action, but everybody else can follow up with that action if they want.
If they have cards of the same type in their hand. Yeah.
Yeah. And if they don't want to do it, then they can actually take another card out of their deck and put it in their hand.
And they get to draw an extra card. Yeah.
But it's really cool. I mean, it's more of a tableau building than it really is a hand building, but you are still
it's a little bit of
deck.
both. You're building your deck, but you're at the same time you're building your tableau of planets.
Right.
So it's dual there, and it's got a unique deck building. You're not purchasing cards, which in most deck buildings you are, and this one you're not.
Because out in front of you, you have all stacks of all the different types of cards. You got military, you got colonized, you got resource, research, or something like that. And
you've got a research, a resource.
The science one where you can go and research. But whatever your action you're going to take, you take that card out of that pile, and you can use it that turn too, because you can boost your play. So like say I'm going to do the colonize. I have 3 other colonized cards, so I'm going to put all 4 of these colonized cards on this planet. Well, this planet takes 5 colonized cards. Well, I've got 4 of them there now, so my next turn I can colonize it again for my action, and then my main action, my leader action, then I can what is it? Basically, you get the planet. I can't remember what that's called now. When you got all the colonists on the planet. And,
you settle it.
You settle it. That's it.
Yeah. Which basically means you flip the card over and it can now produce resources.
Or if I do military, I've got 5 military cards I'm going to place out. I'm going to get 5 ships so I can take over a planet later. Or then the explorer cards is you're going to look through the deck for however many cards. Say like I laid down 5 cards, I'm going to get that many cards -1 to look at, and then I get to pick one, and then I can put it down, face down, so that it's unsettled. So my next turn I can do military and just come in with all my ships and take it over. And, it's going to start making resources for me. Or the other one is you can make resources on your planet, and then you can sell the resources on your planet as well. So, it's really cool.
So what grabs you about this game?
Oh, I guess it's just the easy of the play. I mean, it was kind of hard to learn at the first to get everything down.
I think it was confusing at first because you build your deck in a way that I've never seen a game do before.
Right.
You're not buying out of a stack. You're not, you know how most deck builder games, you're buying out of just a small selection of the cards.
Right.
No, on this one, every card is out. They are all in stacks. Every card is out there. And you're not buying from them. You're grabbing a card based on what you want to do that action.
Okay.
And then you play that card along with other cards out of your hand.
Okay.
Now, the trick is, in the beginning of the game, you really want to colonize. So you're constantly grabbing those colonized cards. But then that's all you have in your hand is colonized cards. That's all that's in your deck. So you've got to be careful not to get so many that come the end of the game when you need to do other things, all you have is colonized cards.
Okay.
When you don't want to colonize anymore. So it's a fine balance of being able to choose what you want for the short term, but not overload yourself that it hurts you in the long run.
Right.
Because as soon as 3 decks are gone, the game's over.
Yep. Yeah, and you've got research. The research cards depend on how many planets of each type you have. That you can go to that pile. Say like I have the metallic planet, and I got 3 metallic planets, so I can go to the deck that shows 3 metallic ships on it. Right. Well, I go to the metallic research deck, which is specialty cards. If you have 3 planets, you can draft these cards if you've played enough. So like I played 5 research cards. This one says I have to have 3 metallic planets. It takes 5 research cards. Cool. This is the one I'm going to get, and it'll go in your deck. Or it could be a card that sits out, and it's a power you have for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
It's an interesting game. We'll have to drag it out with you guys one day.
Okay.
8.
Well, my number 8 is Quadropolis. This was put out in 2016 by Days of Wonder. It was designed by Francis Gandon. Probably not putting the emphasis right on that one, but that's okay. Plays 2 to 4 players, roughly 30 to 60 minutes. BGG rating is 2.3 Gs. No, BGG. Sorry, Quadropolis. BGG. No. BGG rating is 7.3. My personal rating is probably about a 7.58, somewhere in there. The ranking is 356 in BGG. Now, in Quadropolis, each player is building their own little metropolis on their 4x4 player board. using randomly placed tiles from a shared central board. So the central board is a 5x5 grid, and you lay out, depending on player count, tiles on that board. There are a number of different building options in each round, including shops and parks and public service buildings, among others. Each building type has different scoring conditions at the end of the game. So depending on how you build them up will depend on, what's going to score and how much. The game runs in 4 rounds. Each round you're claiming 4 different tiles from the central board, but it's tricky because you're doing so with one of 4 architect pieces that each player has. The architect pieces are put down next to a row or column on the central board that determines how far in which piece you're taking out of that row. So if I place it on the top row on the side, and I'm placing architect number 4, I get to take the 4th piece. So if that's the only architect I have left and it's the 4th round or the 4th turn of that round, then I have to find a piece somewhere on the board where no matter where I place it, that the 4th piece works for me. So it's a little tricky. Okay. Oh gosh, lost my train of thought. Hold on.
Short derailment.
Right, derailment. So anyway, so you're playing with one of the 4 architects that determine which tile you can grab from the row or column. So your choices are very limited based on where other people have placed their architects, but you're also limited in the fact that the last row that was chosen from, there is a special pawn put down where that piece was taken from, and that row and column are now blocked off. You can't take anything out of that row or column for the next turn until he moves, and he moves with each piece that's picked up. So I think I love this game I think for that reason. It's a very unique tile drafting mechanic that makes you really think out all 4 of your actions for that turn, because you've not only do you have to think out your 4 actions, you have to think out your backup actions. So if somebody blocks the row I need, and I need that shop so that other things in my metropolis will score, but somebody blocks row number 3 and I can't take that shop this round, what else can I do? So you literally you're thinking out all your main actions, your backup actions, and then you're just sitting there and hoping nobody takes your tile. So it's just a unique tile drafting game. This is another one Greg doesn't like playing with me.
No, I like the game, but no matter, every time I play this game with her, I think, hey, I'm doing great. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And then she will, at one point in the game, take the tile I'm looking for. I'm like,
you're not praying hard enough.
This will finish me off for this, and this will score me buku points at the end. And I'm trying to count and see what she has. Well, I have like, okay, I'm winning this. If I get that, I'm going to do this. Okay, I think I got a good chance of winning this game, and I come back and I lose by 20 points. It's almost all the time. Not all the time. I think I've actually won this game maybe once.
A few times, yeah. Yeah. We used to play this one all the time. We haven't played it in a while.
Well, we have so many other new games that it kind of gets pushed to the side.
It does. Unfortunately, that is the case with a lot of the older games.
This one's on our list this year, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
I thought it was. Okay.
I don't think so, but it will be next year.
Of course, it's going to be our list next year is to play all of Katie's favorite games.
That's right.
My number 8 is Tales of the Arabian Nights by Z-Man Games, published in 2009, designed by Anthony J. Galala, Eric Goldberg, Kevin Maroney, and Zev Schosslinger.
Say that
BGG
5 times
has
fast.
it ranked at 445. They also have it scored at a 7.2. It's 1 to 6 players and takes about 120 minutes to play through. Mechanics include dice rolling, narrative paragraphs and choices, and point-to-point movement. Tales of the Arabian Nights is another one of those games that has an amazing table presence. Because there's a giant board, and you get to pick characters like Sinbad and Sherazad. But it's this giant booklet, and as you go through and you're making these decisions, And it could be something as simple as, how do you react to seeing, an old man who wants to tell you a tale, to accidentally being whisked away to a magical place that you can't get there unless it's through a magical event, and seeing djinns, genies. Then you have to make these decisions, and the decisions you make fuel the story on, and you can get boons, or you can get just things that hex or curse you, and you've got like I can't think of what it's called. You have a track that
the story and fate track.
Yes, and you can be a pauper, or you can be a rich. You can it's just a very interesting and detailed game. And I guess for some people it may get a little much, because you've got this book you've got to go through, and then you've got cards, and there's a lot of pieces to it. But I mean, I feel like it's a very good beginning point or pivot point to where we start seeing really immersive board games. And I could be wrong. There could be some dated much further back, but I mean, this game, 12 years old?
Yeah.
So it's just a great storytelling game, and you get a good group of people at the table with you playing it, or 2 people or whatever, and then you've also got a lot of just makes for good table talk and taunting and stuff like that. So it's a really fun game. It might not be for everybody, but it's definitely one of my favorites.
This is another one that just missed my top 10, and it's one that, if Jess says, "Hey, let's play this," I'm not ever going to turn her down unless we are just like really pressed for time, because this is an immersive game, and it does stretch out a little bit sometimes. The 120 minutes, I think that's a good baseline, but I think sometimes games can last longer than that. But I really enjoy the storytelling aspect of it. How people are gonna gripe a little bit because the charts you use, sometimes it doesn't seem like what you do necessarily. There's kind of a random element to it, where sometimes I should obviously try to respond this way. It doesn't always work out the way people expect it. And that's okay. It's more of a fun experience for me.
Right.
I think Tom Bassel referred to this not as a game, but more of an experience.
Yeah.
And I have to agree.
This is one I thought you guys would cross over for sure. I was like, Arabian Nights is on both their lists.
I think this was one of our first big purchases too. When we first got into games.
We've played it once with you guys, so I can't really give my
that was
true
so long
thoughts
ago.
on that. But yeah, it's been a
Wasn't
while
that like
since we
shortly
played
after we met? It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a long while.
On that multicolored tabletop. Okay.
Yes.
Alrighty. My number eight is Crown of Amara, from Pegasus Spiel, designed by Benjamin Schwer. In 2018, it is 757 on the BGG list of top games. It's given a 7.5 rating. Oh, Euros. How you confound me with your themelessness and your lucklessness and your lack of conflict. But then every so often you will spout off a gem like Crown of Amara and you'll keep me coming back. Crown of Amara has the story of a good but heirless king knowing his time is coming and offering the so-named crown to the noble who best shows the most dedication to the population and builds up the town. And you know what? Just forget about it, because the theme is not there whatsoever. It's forgettable. But the game, however, is not. The game takes place over a dual rondel setup, where one rondel is the countryside and the other is the town. You have an advisor on each side, and you're dealt 3 cards from a deck of 9. And then in each of 3 rounds going forward, you play one of those cards into a spot on your player board marked 1, 2, or 3. And you get the action depicted on the card, plus you get to move your advisor the number of spots you play that card. And it can be either advisor, either the one in the rural section, which usually helps you gain resources, or the advisor in the city to utilize those resources and gain points. And throughout, you're trying to gain helpful assistance from cards throughout the city, and building points, but not focus too much on either people or building points, because in the end, your score is the lowest of the two scores you have. You gain titles and boons, you trade resources on kind of a decreasing scale. So like the first time, like if I trade in say a rock for something, I may get 4 gold for it, but then every time somebody else trades in, it will decrease down to 3 or 2. There's just so much going on that you never once feel devoid of choices. But here's the thing that like draws me about this game. It never does it overwhelmingly. I'd call this game midweight at best. The game is over in 18 rounds, twice through your deck of cards. So it's done, notwithstanding any analysis paralysis, it's done in like an hour. It doesn't hang around for half your day. And to me, that actually makes it beautiful. The fact that you can get all this stuff done in such a short time and still actually, have all these deep decision-making things, but it doesn't drag out. So the game is beautiful. It's got a nice top-down look. It's very bright and colorful, but they've also, thoughtfully made it where you can flip the tiles over to see kind of a muted side to help people that may not be, may get lost in all the details that are drawn on the boards. So that's just an extra added thing. It's just a really beautiful game. It's got great table presence, and I'm really surprised that it did not hit higher in the BGG rankings than it has.
Yeah, I've seen a few playthroughs of this and decided, we have to borrow this game from you guys or come over and play this game because it looked really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it is.
This looks right up our alley.
Okay, moving on. My number 8. It is ranked 3,264. This is my lowest ranking game. I just checked it just a little bit ago, and it actually went up because it was that one that was at 3,306 or something like that. So it went up quite a bit. It's from Uproarious Games. It's got a 7.7 ranking. This is actually Z Garcia's pick for Game of the Year for 2020, believe it or not. It's by Rob Kramer. It came out in 2020, and that's the Grand Carnival. We have a video playthrough of this, so check it out on our YouTube channel. Check out the game. Great game. It is my favorite polyomino game, and I call it a double stacking polyomino game. Polyomino game, because that's what you're doing. You're stacking tiles on top of tiles, building this carnival. I love it. I mean, I'm not a big polyomino fan because I can't seem to win them, because Katie always beats me at most of them. But I love this one because I normally beat her. So
yeah, I don't win this one very often.
This is, I mean, you just got to be able to see your carnival before it's built, knowing where everything's going to go and what's out there, as long as nobody beats you to the tile you're trying to get to put onto your board to continue on.
Or takes all the number 3 tiles and kicks you out of 22 points.
But there's so
that
many
didn't
ways,
happen.
There's so many ways in this game too, though, to get points. I mean, because
there's a lot of ways in the game. Yeah,
if you have a tile of each size, you get points. If you have multiples of one size, you get points. However many tickets you have out there, you get points. How many visitors you get to the big tent, you get points. Great game. Love it.
Yes. No, I agree.
No, I'd agree. Yeah, it's a very good game.
7.
My number 7 is another one we've done a video playthrough of, so go check it out. This is Mandala. It's put out in 2019 by Lookout Games, designed by Trevor Benjamin and Brent Gilbert. It is a 2-player game. Takes about 20 minutes to play, so very quick to get to the table, very easy to set up. BGG rating is 7.7. My rating is about an 8. The BGG ranking is 538. So Mandala is, like I said, a 2-player game. It is played on 2 different fields of play on the mandalas with 6 different card types, different patterns. Each turn, cards are placed into either the center of one of the mandalas or onto your side of it, into your field. But each mandala can only hold each of the 6 colors in one location, so you can't put them both in your field and in the center. When all 6 colors are present on a single mandala, then it quote unquote breaks. The person with the most cards on their side of the field gets first choice of the cards in the middle. And this is where the game gets interesting. This is the crux of the game. Every time you take cards from the center, one of those cards goes into your scoring area, into your river. This is an area in front of you that is used to determine scoring at the end of the game, provided that color isn't already there. But the later you take a new color, the higher that color is going to end up scoring. So the first time you take a new color, so the very first round of the game, you're putting something into your first or second slot. Those cards are only going to be worth 1 or 2 points at the end of the game. But the cards, the colors that you're taking 4th or 5th or 6th, those are worth 4, 5, or 6 points at the end of the game. So the later that you take a color, the more points they're worth, but the fewer cards of that you're going to have left to score over. Or left over to score with. So basically you take cards out of the center, you put that first one down in your river, and everything else goes into an upside down pile into your cup. And these are the cards that are physically scoring at the end of the game. I really like this game. It's a very, very simple card game. It has a lot of thought process to it though, because of having to figure out, well, if I take this stack, these cards are only worth 3, but I'll keep my partner from getting this color. So, and you don't, the game ends when the first person gets all 6 of the colors in their river. So, and at that point, the game is over. Yeah. So figuring out how to get what you need, but keep your opponent from getting what he needs is a very interesting. It makes for some very interesting decisions. I think I've only won this game 1 time.
Yes, and you slaughtered me.
I did
this game,
but I've won it 1 time. Every other time you've slaughtered me.
I think the game you won, it was like what, 60 to 13.
It wasn't that
she
bad.
Absolutely. Oh yes, it was. It was like 30 points or 40 points or something like that. I mean, you really murdered me at this
I know
game.
I really got you, but
I had been beating her at this game every time. By
you have,
10,
and every time
20
since.
points, and she just killed me. It's like I almost wanted to cry. I lost so bad at this game.
Maybe that's why we've never been able to pull it out since. No, I think like I said, I've only won this game 1 time, but I'm not super good at it. There's a lot to figure out. It's a fine line between, do you take that one color, even though there's literally only one of them on the mountain? So you all you're doing is putting it in your river. So it's not going to score anything at the end of the game, or do you take something else that has 3 cards in it that you already have someplace else on your river, so all of those score. So it's just a fine balance of interesting decisions, and I really like it.
Yeah, and it's not a super heavy game.
No, it's super. The instructions are literally 2 pieces of paper. I mean, it's one bifolded piece of paper. It's super easy. So not hard.
By the way, your score was 63. Mine was 17. I just looked it up. Yes. It was March 21st we played it. Yes. 63 to 17.
Wow.
The rest of the games were like 40 to 39, 58 to 51, 60 to 51. So they were close.
So what you're saying is I finally figured out the game and we'll never play it again now.
No, we'll play it. You won the first game we played.
Oh, did I? Didn't remember
48,
that. Okay.
39, you won the first game we played.
Okay.
So we've played it 5 times. But no, it's not a real thinky game, I don't think.
No.
And it's really light, really fast to play. So if you're looking to get a game in real quick, it's a great game to pull out.
Yeah, agreed.
Just don't fold up your board.
Well, you kind of have to put it back in the box.
I know.
It's a canvas, or not canvas. It's a linen board, linen cloth. So it creases very easily, but still, it makes it easy to take places though. So it's a small
And-
box. It's a
and it
standard
comes in a-
two-player size box.
Yeah, it comes in a box like Patchwork,
Yeah,
that size box. So
yeah, not bad.
okay, moving on.
All right, my number 7 is okay. I like the game Role Player, but I like Role Player with the Monsters and Minions expansion even more. I know they're waiting on their Role Player Adventures, which we backed on Kickstarter. So this little combination of original game plus expansion definitely makes me very excited for what's coming out. But anyway, so Role Player with the Monsters and Minions expansion is my number 7. It comes from Thunderwork Games. It came out, the base came out in 2016, whereas the expansion came out in 2018. It is designed by Keith Machka. The ranking for the original game is 193. I did not see a ranking for the expansion. The score for the base game is 7.5. The expansion gets an 8.1. 1 to 4 players. It takes about 60 to 90 minutes to play. The mechanics are card drafting, dice rolling, drafting, and set collection. And again, this is just a game where you're basically you're rolling these dice and you're trying to set them into spots so that your human or half elf or dragonkin or whatever race, and then of course you get I don't remember the terms for them now, I'm so sorry.
Alignments.
You get their alignments, and then you get what they do.
Oh yeah,
Or
the class.
Roles, I guess.
Class, yeah.
Get your class and your alignment and your race, I think.
Mhm.
So you have all of these different little things that you've got to make certain that you've got to make certain that you get these dice to amount to, but you also have, just like Sagrada, you've got to make certain that if you want to get these extra points, you've got a red die in this particular spot, you've got a blue die in this particular spot, but then you add in the Monsters and Minions expansion, so you've already got the base of the Role Player game where you're trying to build everything up, but now you're heading off and you're fighting monsters and eventually even fighting the big bad monster. And I don't know, it's just it added so much more to the game. I already liked the game, but then when we tacked on the Monsters and Minions expansion, I just feel like it just opened up so many possibilities, and now I can definitely see how they stepped off from what looked like it was really just like a dice rolling, drafting kind of game almost, to an actual, like, to where they are going now with Role Player Adventures. But
we picked up Role Player it's been a little while, and we love the game. This was actually on my short list. So it was definitely in the 20 I originally identified as some of my favorites, but we have not played Monsters and Minions yet. We picked it up for my birthday, and we have not had a chance to pull that one out yet. So I'm looking forward to doing so.
It is really a really great add-on. We have Fiends and Familiars.
We have bought that one too.
We haven't played that one yet. I've opened it. I've oohed and awed over the artwork stuff inside, but we haven't actually played with it yet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hoping, hopefully within the next couple of weeks we can get all of it to the table and see how it plays with everything. I'll be curious.
I can only get Katie this excited about building a character when it's actually counting for a role-playing game.
Yep.
I hate building characters. What if I just roll it up in the game and then transfer it over? Can I do that? I'll just roll up all my stats, and then I'll just play a character. Right there, you go. See, next time we play a game, I'll just play this game first, and next time we play an RPG, I'll play this game first, and I'll just take all those stats, and there we go. There you go.
There we go.
I like that idea.
Okay. Now for my number 7, I am going to just reiterate everything that Jess just said, because my number 7 is Role Player as well.
Nice.
Hey, crossover.
Yay!
You may notice as we go on how much of my list is actually kind of colored by Dungeons and Dragons. Role Player, for instance, does a really worthy job of taking one of the most underappreciated and in some minds boring part of Dungeons and Dragons. And by the way, I would totally disagree up until 3.5 Pathfinder, which is a slog, and turns it into an interesting and fun game. You select your class and race, you each with its specific goals, yada, 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 yada. Just went over this entire thing. The end result to this is like a creative masterpiece that can be knocked out in less than an hour and leaves you wanting more. And then it helps that the expansions, like she said, Monsters and Minions and Fiends and Familiars. We haven't played Fiends and Familiars yet, but Monsters and Minions, you can see a definite step up to the next level. They're pointed in the way so that kind of expands the game a little bit more towards an actual adventure as opposed to just the creating of a character. And that makes it feel like the next obvious step, which is Role Player Adventures. Looks like it's going to be really good, and that's got us really looking forward to it. But yeah, no, there's everything that everything works well with this game. I love the dice chucking. I like the manipulating them based on what scores you get, where you're placing your dice, and everything like that. And there's a lot of thinkiness, especially when you come down to your last couple dice. Okay, where am I going to place these? Where am I going to place these where I can adjust other scores that maybe haven't quite made my ability score ranks to in such a way to get me extra points. And then there's also, okay, so what am I drafting? Am I drafting this low dice so I can go first and possibly get a better choice of equipment? Or am I going last because that's a 6 and good Lord, I need a 6 on this particular score? So right. I like everything about it. It works out really well. Even the base game works out well, but like Jess said, I think it expands and makes everything that much better with the expansion, Monsters and Minions.
Yep. I'd also like to add as a disclaimer, as my husband said, Dungeons and Dragons definitely, in our opinion, took a fall once they got to 3.5 and beyond, but 5e has been their shot at redemption, so don't add us, please.
It's been a well-needed shot in the arm. I'm not sure whether I like it better than I like the offshoot, like Capsules and Crusades, which is still like my favorite RPG style because it's so narrative heavy.
My number 7, it's 268 on the BGG rankings. This is my first Steffenfeld on my list. My favorite all-time designer. Although there is a designer out there that's later in my list that's starting to move up and could surpass him, depending on some of his games it's got coming out. Anyway, this is by Z-Man Games. It was out in 2014. It has a 7.4 rating. This is Bruges.
I had a feeling
that's what this was. I know Katie's played Bruges.
Oh, yeah.
This game is great. I mean, it's your point salad game from Steffenfeld. The thing doesn't, well, it kind of comes out because you're building the canals of Bruges. You're working in the, the reputation or politics, whatever. You're trying to go up that chart. But the best thing about this game is the cards. The different thing, they're multiple played cards. You can do them for anything. You can, because there's like colored dice that you roll at the beginning of the round, and these are set in a row, and certain things happen to what number they're on. Like I have a red card I want to play, and I'm actually just going to play for a house. So I put it down. I pay my red worker I have to put it down. And when you build a house, now you can actually, your next round, you can actually put somebody in the house if you have the gold to put him in there. And then that person does certain powers for you for the rest of the game or in-game scoring. You can use the cards to get money. So I have a green card I don't need. I'm going to get rid of it. There's no green card. Blue card in the game I don't need. I'm going to get rid of him for the money. The blue dice says 5, so now I'm going to get 5 coins. Or I'm going to take this card, and there's little bad things that can happen in the game. Depending on all the 6s and 5s that are rolled, you get, I can't remember what those little discs are called, the little pies you get. And when you make the whole pie, the bad thing goes away. Like you can lose all of your people, or you got to lose a building or one of your workers, or you lose all your gold. but you can use that card as like, okay, I'm not using this yellow card. I'm almost finished off that circle, so I'm going to discard it to get rid of one of my yellow ones. That way I don't lose all my stuff that goes away with this one. The other things are you can use the card to build your canals because you put your token out and you can build on the canal area, and you got 2 parts of the canal you got to build where you're going to get points for it. And each section is a color, so you need that color card and then a certain amount of gold to build it. So you're playing that card, doing that with that color card. It's really cool. Like I said, the theme doesn't come out as much, but it is there. But yeah, I like all the things you can do with the card. So you don't know, because at the beginning of each round, you're drawing cards to get back up to your hand size, because you're going to try and play all the cards in your hand. And there's 2 stacks there, and you only see what the top card is, and they're all different color houses basically.
Yeah,
so
you can't see what the person
stack.
is.
Yeah, you're going to draw the card out of the stack, and okay, well, that's a yellow one. I need a yellow one. The other one shows a brown. That one just turned up a blue, so I'm going to take that blue. And you're just going through the stack. So once the stacks scroll out, there's one more stack that will come in. Once that's gone, the game's over. But I really like it because of the card play. The card play is really cool. I mean,
there's like 5 or 6 different things each card can do. The hard part is choosing, do you want the ability of the person, or do you really want to use this card to build your next canal piece? Or gosh, I really need another red house so that this other person scores points. So I like this person, I like what he does, but I really need that to be a house. So there's a lot of hard decisions to make on it. So I like that.
And each card, like I said, they have little icons on it, and you'll get a card that you could put out, but you don't have the money to put this thing out, but you really like it because it gives you a certain amount of points for every church-going person you have in your on your tableau, but you can't get it out, and you're like, oh, I gotta get this out. Wait a minute, I've got to get a house now. Oh, I don't have the meeples to build that house, so I've got to play this card to get rid of that. This is a card I really wanted though, but I needed that color of meeple so I could build this color house. Yeah, there's a lot of choices to go on.
A lot of decisions.
You can definitely have AP in this game.
Yes.
So, but yeah,
Pretty
that's
standard.
Bruges.
6.
All right. Well, my number 6 is actually a crossover with Greg. My number 6 is the Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Again, 2014. He already went over all this, so I won't do it again. But real quick, again, tile lane game. You're building a castle. What I like about this is even though it is a tile lane game, it is all different shaped pieces. It's not your typical polyomino. It's not just your typical square. Everybody starts with just that simple square foyer. It's one of the few square pieces in the whole game. But and each round you're either adding corridors or sleeping chambers or food or living areas or even outdoor spaces. So you're matching up as many doors as possible on each placement. This is important because if you can actually completely close off a room by basically matching up all of its doors with other rooms, corridors, or stairs, then you get bonuses based on that room, based on what that room is. I really like the game again because of the odd shape sizes, the odd shaped tiles. You're still trying to match everything up like you would in any polyomino or any tile lane game, but it's basically impossible. You're not going to match everything. The rooms they are built to go together in some fashions, but not all together. It's just the tiles just aren't built that way. But it's fun to try. And it's fun to see all the different combinations you can make with this of your castle. You end up with some pretty weird looking castles by the time you're done. Like I said, we ordered the deluxe we kickstarted the deluxe version that's coming out, mostly because I wanted that jumbo size version, even though we'll be playing it on the floor. But yeah, so that's my number 6.
Well, when we can go back out and take our fundraising thing out, we can take that out.
That'll be a fun one to take. I think that'll get a lot of some really good table presence. When we're out at different events. Yeah, I agree. That'll be a fun one to take with us.
My number 6 is Delve. It's published by Indie Boards and Cards in 2017. Designed by Richard Launius and Pete Shirey.
Mhm.
It ranks 4009, with a score of 6.6 on BGG. It's 2 to 4 players, and it takes about 60 minutes. Mechanics are dice rolling, storytelling, and tile placement. Delve is essentially at its core. It's a tile placement game. You pick at the beginning which faction you want to play, and you've got like elves and goblins, and I don't even remember because I always play goblins. But they're going through, and you are opening up different areas of this dungeon that you're going through, basically, and you're trying to find treasure, and you're coming across foes, basically, and like there's like a couple of complaints is that like the dice are great, but they started chipping. The paint started flaking off of them, so that's kind of a letdown. The other thing is that the cards don't have pictures on them. Now I know they recently, I think they did a re-release on it, in which case they added more artwork, and that's fantastic, but I'm not going to rebuy it. But like my favorite one is where you come across this beautiful dwarven princess with her braided beard on her battle goat, and I will always feel robbed that there wasn't an illustration of this. But I don't know. I don't know really how to get into it. It's been a good while since I've played it, but it is one of my absolute favorite tile laying games. And each little party, because I guess you're playing an entire group, because you've got a wizard type and you've got fighter types and things like that. I really should have looked at this more. I'm so sorry. There's 4 people in each party.
There's 5 people in each party. There's 4 different factions.
Yes, there's 5 different people in each of the parties, and they all have their own role that they take. And so you do have these individual little abilities, and then there's abilities within the factions themselves that are specifically related to them. But I mean, it's just a super cute game that doesn't get enough love.
So imagine Carcassonne, basically, but instead of when you're laying tiles and putting a meeple in it to place that, you're putting one of your party members in there to say, this is going to be our room. And then if you have multiple factions in the same room, then they have to kind of duke it out for, who gets the treasure in the room and everything like that. It helps that the art is like really, the art that's there is really stylized. It's almost got kind of an ELO look that works out really nicely. It's a fun game. It did not quite make my short list, but I think a lot of that is just because it's been a while since we have played it, but it is still, it's a hilarious, fun game. The cards where like, there are certain instances, and I'm trying to think if it's you are the only person in a room, so there's nothing really to duke out. When you enclose the room, I think you pull a story card, and the story card will give you a choice for certain things, and that's where your story stuff comes in. So it's almost like an expanded Carcassonne, but focused solely on a fantasy aspect, which works out really well for me and Jess, because this is like our wheelhouse.
And of course, you can make decisions. You meet this beautiful dwarvish princess, and what are you going to do? Are you going to, they tell you, this treasure in here is mine. Are you going to be like, oh, okay, that's cool, you take it, or are you going to fight her for it? And or the old man, or the skeleton, or it's I don't know. It's very, very cute. It is extremely cute, and the different jobs of the people within your faction. If I have I want to say he was flatly called a wizard. If I have a wizard in there, then Mark is going to want to make certain that he has a wizard in there so that we're equally matched.
Right.
So, I don't know.
It's a cool game.
Okay.
All righty. My number 6 is Folklore the Affliction by Greenbrier Games, designed by Nick Blaine and Will Donovan, 2017. Been a couple expansions since then. It is 1131st on the BGG list of top 100, so it's down there quite a bit. But it has a 7.8 rating. It's actually one of my higher rated games. If Folklore the Affliction were a straight up high fantasy theme instead of horror fantasy, it would easily be my top game. I'll say that without question. Because so few games that I've had have scratched that RPG in a box itch the way it has. You're one of an eclectic group of heroes that have tasked themselves with finding and destroying the source of evil, decimating the land of Kreml. Along the way, in order to do so, you'll find yourself facing off against a lot of the creatures of nightmares, vampires, werewolves, ghosts, and all sorts of hideous undead. The storylines are really well written, blending character customization. The game blends character customization, dice chucking, and kind of the immersive feel of a tabletop RPG with tactical combat of a more standard dungeon crawler. And it has the hand management of a card game, and this is all kind of mixed in together. So you make basic tabletop role-playing game decisions throughout gameplay. Do you keep to the relative safety of the roads and travel during the day, or do you travel off-road knowing that there is potential dangers that may overwhelm your party? You follow the storybook throughout the game. You fight in smaller skirmishes in certain areas. And then in certain areas, you go to the full-size battle maps where you actually everything is a little bit more tactically oriented. It's a flat-out beautiful game. I mean, the artwork is stunning. Even though we didn't get the one with the miniatures, we ended up getting it later. It's got the standees, and the standees are just, appallingly good. They're very creepy looking. They have that theme throughout. It's got a lot of expandability. There's extra cards that you can also pick up. There's like I said, there's two expansions, Dark Tales and Fall of the Spire, I want to say, is the most recent one. I could be incorrect about that. It's got thematic art. It's got a little bit of the combat fiddliness, but then again, I mean, if you're used to D&D, CNC, that kind of stuff, man, combat fiddliness really doesn't like throw you in a game like this. And the fact that it's also got like expandability where you could actually make your own scenarios, that's kind of an extra added bit of cool. The whole thing makes it kind of a must buy for people that want the RPG in board games, and that includes me.
Yep.
The cool thing about the standees that I noticed was that out of your characters, if you die, you're a ghost and you can do ghost stuff. And they actually have like ghost versions of all of the different playable characters as a standee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one you talked about on one of our other podcasts.
Yes.
Go back a little bit, a few of them back. That I was like, yeah, we're gonna have to get together and play this one because this is one of. I mean, I'm not really big into storytelling games. I want to play a role-playing game. I'll play a real role-playing game, not a board game. But it's one that you said. I looked at the pictures and I was like, yeah, we gotta get together and play this.
The fun thing about these, particularly these that you end up using an app where you have like a living card deck type deal, is that you don't have. There's only two of you, then nobody has to be the DM, so everybody gets to enjoy in that player experience.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, my number 6 is actually a crossover with Mark, and it is actually now ranked at 146. It's gone up 2 since you checked it last, Mark. This is from Lucky Duck Games. It is It's a Wonderful World, and it's pretty much, we talked about it when you said it. It's a great game. I'm wondering if the climb up the rankings right now has anything to do with the new Kickstarter, It's a Wonderful Kingdom, just getting off of Kickstarter, just ending.
That's
possible.
Everybody's back. Oh, I want to play this game so I can remember how to play it. So when my game comes, I will know how to remember how to play it. But so I wonder if it's going up because of that. But it's a great game.
Wonderful.
Simple game too. So I think that's enough said about that. We've already talked about it.
We have. All
Let's
right. Well,
move on.
5.
My number 5 Is the Colonists. This was put out in 2016 by Lookout Games, at the time Mayfair Games. Designer is Clemens France. Plays 1 to 4 players, anywhere from 30 minutes to about, it says 360 minutes. What does that equate to in hours? It's a lot.
6.
6 hours. Okay, there you go. My math wasn't working very fast there. Okay. It ranks a 7.7 on BGG. My rating personally is almost a 9, actually. BGG ranking is 439 as of last night. So the Colonists, it's a tile laying game. It's all hex tiles. It is a city building game that is broken down into 4 eras for the sake of play. Each player has their player boards and are placing hexagon tiles into the city central board throughout the game. So throughout the game, you're building up the central part of the city with quarries and factories and various things that will give you resources or special actions or that will allow you to build stuff in your player board in your village. At the end of the first 3 eras, a new market tile is placed into the city, and more tiles become available for placement into the city in the next era. This is definitely the heaviest game on my list, but I love it because the game provides built-in breakpoints so that if you don't have the time to sit down for a 6-hour game or even a 3-hour game, you can break it down into just one era. You can play just a short 2-hour game of just the first era if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
If you know that first era is kind of dull, you can preset the board so that you start in the second era if you want to do that. The last time we played this game, we actually did play all 4 eras, but in between each one of the eras, at the end of each one, we got up and we did some project we had to take care of that day. I'd go out and change laundry. We did the dishes and cleaned the kitchen. Greg was working on something in the garage. So we got out and we did all of our chores throughout the day in between these eras. And then we'd come back and we'd play the next era. And then when that era was over, we'd go back out and do the next chore. So the game literally took the whole day. I mean, we literally spent the entire day playing it, but we got a lot done in between. So, and it was a nice natural break point. And I like that. It really worked well.
The game actually says that it actually has a way of, once you get done with one era, if you're done for the day, you can actually save the game. And it kind of goes through how you can save it. But the best way is take a picture, what the colony looks like and what your colony board looks like. So you can remember, and then you just bag up, like all of my stuff would go in one bag, all the colony itself would go in one bag, and then all Katie's would go in one bag. So we can set it back up when we get ready to play it again. Yeah. But every time we played it, we've played all 4 eras together. Yeah.
We've just left it set up and go do other things and come back to it.
Brain-burning game.
It is.
There's a lot of setup if you don't have the organizer like we have.
Yeah.
We found the best organizer for this thing.
Yeah. It's a nice.
Katie found it.
Yeah, on Etsy of all places. So it was a really nice organizer. It works out really well.
A lot of
set it up down to 10 minutes.
Yeah. Most people, when you see their game setup of this, it's just a pile of the buildings sitting off to the side. This organizer, it sets all the buildings, has all in one spot, and in front of it says the name of the building. So all you got to do is go over there and look at it. Can set up is just take that tray out, set it up.
Yeah,
take the tray out with the cards, set it there. You're ready to go.
Yeah. So like I said, setup is down to 5 or 10 minutes. It's super fast now.
It's a really cool game.
So that's my number 5.
My number 5 is a crossover with Mark's.
Yay.
Call to Adventure. He's already given all of the deets on it. However, I would like to repeat, you cast runes instead of rolling dice. That is like the coolest little boon they added to it. It's just a nice little feature that really adds to the experience. But no, Call to Adventure is definitely a great game. It's my number 5.
Yeah, this is the game that when it first came out, there was a lot of talk, but it's kind of fallen away. And I was hyped when it came out. I was like, ooh, I want to play this. And tried to play it at Gen Con, but I couldn't find it in any of the game areas that it wasn't already checked out. But
we have we have one of the expansions, but we haven't used it yet.
Sounds like we need to exchange some games.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, possibly.
More games. We've already got some games exchanged. We need to exchange some more.
Definitely. All righty.
All right.
My number 5 is a crossover with Jessica.
Imagine that.
Yeah, exactly. And that is Sagrada. And all I have to say is, what the actual heck? Somehow an abstract made it into my top 5. That
Yep.
madness.
Because it's
That's
a really
awesome.
good game, but it
Yeah.
didn't
It
even
is.
make it in my top 10.
I am really surprised it didn't make it. Maybe I just assumed it was in the top 100, so I didn't even look at it. Because this
Wow.
should have made my list, and for whatever
No.
reason it didn't.
It's your number 11.
It's my number 11. There you go. That's my.
Yeah.
It's my number 11.
And I mean, I mean, number one. Okay, obviously, I like dice rolling in games, and that like kind of harkens a lot back to my role playing days. But then on top of it, I mean, this is just such a beautiful game out on the table. I mean, everything works so well in it together, and it just, it's not really a whole lot more to say about it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a fun game. It doesn't last a whole long time. You can actually kind of use it almost as a filler in between two bigger games.
Right.
All right, so we're at 3 now, Mark.
Yep.
We got
Yeah.
4 left. Let's see.
We've only had one, Katie.
Yeah,
I
we've
figured
only
we'd
had
have
one.
more than that.
I thought
be-
for sure we would.
Yeah.
To be fair, you guys have about like 3 times as many games as we do too.
That's
Right.
true. And I pulled
I
a
have
lot
a
of
feeling
older
that-
games.
I have a feeling that Mark and I are probably going to double that number as we go.
Probably,
We're already
yeah.
on 5, so okay, so
right.
we'll move on. My number 5, it is currently at 507. This is my other Steffenfeld game on the list from Hall Games. 2020 was released, and it's an 8, believe it or not, on the BGG rating. That is Bonfire. We just released our video game playthrough of this on our YouTube channel. Check it out.
This was on my
Bonfire-
short list.
Yeah, I'm just not sure exactly why I like it, but I really, really like this game. I mean, it has surpassed Bruges. Bruges was my all-time favorite Steffenfeld game, but now this game, I don't know. I mean, I lost in our playthrough video of it so badly, but I really like this game because
I
there's
think
so
I lost
much.
the worst, though.
Yes, you definitely lost the worst.
Yeah,
But you won our the other game we played. Right?
Yes.
But, yeah.
yeah.
But
There's a lot to do in this game, but I don't know if it's just the look of the game just makes you really like the game
the
more.
game is beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's the little dudes.
It is.
It's the dudes. But I mean, then the little Yoda guys too.
Yeah.
Or what is it, Grogu? Yeah, it's Grogu,
Grogu.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like the game, but I just can't put my thumb on exactly what part of the game I like the most.
I think like I said, this one made my short list, and I think I definitely like it because like I said in our last podcast, it's everything interconnects so well. You
Yes.
cannot ignore anything.
Correct. Like some
and
of
a
the
lot
other,
of a lot of Steffenfeld's games, if you want to ignore something, you just simply ignore it and you go after something else. But this one, you can't do that because everything interlocks so perfectly
right.
that you have to build your pathways in order to get your dudes
I
around.
mean, there is strategies
You
of
have
how to go about doing
Right.
things. I
Yes.
mean, you can go heavy on the bonfire, trying to get all the bonfires built, or you can go heavy on buying the cards, but you're still going to have to get those bonfires out there if you want those extra points and get pathways out there for it, and get the what was those things called, the portals. You had to get those portals out there. So like you said, you can't ignore anything, but you
Right.
can go kind of heavy towards one thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Okay.
Bonfire,
Good
number
game.
5.
4,
All right, so my number 4 is the oldest game on my list. It is Lost Cities, the board game. The board game came out in 2008. It was actually I don't want to say it was a re-implementation of the card game, but it was based, there's a card game that is very similar to, the mechanics are very similar, that came out in 99. This was put out by Reiner Knizia, Rio Grande Games, plays 2 to 4 players, roughly 30 to 60 minutes. The ranking in BGG is actually ranked at 1200. The rating is a 6.8. My rating is about a 7.5. In Lost Cities, each player leads up a team on an expedition to discover the lost cities that are at the end of 5 different paths on the board. Throughout the game, you are playing cards to move one of your adventures along the path of a matching color. So there's 5 different color cards, 5 different color paths. Each player starts out in each path starts out in the negative number, so you have to get at least 4 spots down before you even start gaining victory points for it, instead of losing points for starting down that path. So you don't necessarily want to start down one if you know you don't have the cards to get very far, because you're going to get negative points for it. So what's the point? Each path is also seeded, though, with artifact tiles at the beginning of the game. So if you're the first person to reach one of the artifact tiles, you get to pick that up. They could be worth points. It could be additional movement spots that you can take somewhere else on the board, or it could be an actual artifact. And artifacts are worth just straight points at the end of the game, depending on how many of them you collect. The point value grows exponentially depending on how many you have of them at the end of the game. Each set, now the trick in this one, though, just as in the card game, is each set of 5 cards must be played in numerical order. So if you start at a high number, you get onto that path at 6, you're not going very far, because you've only got a few cards left that you can possibly play if you have them. So you have to wait for those lower numbers to come out. But if you wait for the lower numbers, your opponent may get all the good artifacts. So it's a fine balance of when do you just give up waiting for those lower numbers to come into your hand versus just jump onto that path and then just know the next card you're going to pull up will be 2 numbers back.
Yep.
Happens every time. I like this game. It's a light, easy to learn game. The rules are literally a back-to-back piece of paper. There's nothing else to it. Super simple to learn. It's an easy to play game. Some decisions still have to be made throughout the game that I think make it interesting. Like, again, which artifacts to go after, how soon do you start down a path? No matter how many people are playing, when the 5th player crosses a specific bridge to get to a city, that ends the game. So the game length is about the same no matter how many players are playing. And I like that. So the length doesn't grow based on the number of players. Fifth adventure across that bridge, the game's over. So I like it for that reason. So that's my number 4.
Yeah, not a bad game.
Yeah.
But not my top 50.
Again, this will be on the list next year, buddy.
Yep.
Yeah.
My number 4 is, okay. So I know with role player, I got real specific. I'm like, I like role player, but I like monsters and minions added to it more. So I need it with the expansion. Now I'm going to get real vague here on you. My number 4 is the Explore It series. I'm not picking. I'm sorry. I like Valley of the Dead King. I like Forest of Adramon. I like their little expansions that go with it. We have Sands of Shirax. We have not committed to playing it yet, but we will soon. Because it's like Dark Sun.
Yeah.
I totally believe it's going to be like Dark Sun. So it's published by Mariucci J Designs LLC. First came out in 2017. Its designer was designed by Kat Comandri, Nathan Luz, and Jonathan Maurice. It ranks 2016, and it's got a score of 7.8. I'm pretty certain I probably looked at Forest of Adramon for that, so Valley of the Dead King probably has a different one. 1 to 7 players, takes 60 to 180 minutes to play, and I feel like it might even take a little bit longer sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to play it with an 8-year-old. Mechanics are cooperative, dice rolling, grid movement, and push your luck. I mean, if you don't know about Explore It, you will soon, because we're going to be doing a playthrough of it.
That is our next playthrough of it.
Yep. And we'll talk about it all on our next podcast.
Yeah. So tune into number 11.
Everybody picks their race, and they pick their class. And if you want to, you can pick a trait. And you are represented by a single mini, and you are going across this vast layout of tiles, large tiles in different shapes. And and your movement is within hexes. And like in Valley of the Dead King, you're trying to get yourself strong enough and capable enough so that you can take on the Dead King as he's moving across the board and just corrupting and taking over cities. And Forest of Adramon, you are attempting to get tough enough to take on Adramon as she is just mind wiping the people within the forest and the areas within it. I mean, it's just, and it's really, it's a lot like an RPG in a box. It really is. I mean, you're rolling dice. You've got the fate die, which determines what your enemy is going to do. So again, you've got the RPG aspect without somebody being stuck being the DM. You could pass it around, or if you've got somebody who's a stronger player at that sort of thing, or they have a stronger leanings towards being able to take over the baddie. They can do that on their own, but they are still able to be a player character. They're not just stuck as a DM type situation. I know. I really like the Explore It series. It's definitely one of those games where you take it out of the box and it's a commitment, but it is a lot of fun.
Right. We played this at 2-player last night. And well, we'll leave all those comments for the podcast.
We'll save it for the podcast.
For the review. But in the box, I noticed there is a card for the Dead King. I mean, there's one for the boss Dead King, but there's a card that was you could play the Dead King.
If you wanted to.
It's in the expansion. There is a 1 versus all.
Okay.
I had a feeling that had to be what it was.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, we'll save our comments for this game because we want to play it again a few more times, and then plus for our playthrough video of it, so that way we can kind of give an honest opinion about the game after we've played it a few more times. So it'll be interesting.
All righty. My number 4 is my oldest game on the list. It's from 2007. Strata Libre and Fantasy Flight Games redid this one, designed by Andrea Cervesco and Luca Iannacco in 2007. This is Kingsburg.
Oh, yeah.
It is number 357 on the BGG list of top games, and it has a 7.2 rating. Kingsbird was the game that pretty much started my enjoyment of board games. So for that alone, it kind of rates itself as a high spot, despite the fact that it's relatively older game and it has mechanics that other games have not only capitalized on, but have probably expounded a little bit more on. The basics of Kingsburg is that you are trying to administer territories for the king over the course of 5 years. We've got a video of this on the YouTube site. A playthrough of it. And so I'm just going to gloss over a little bit of the story behind it. But the idea is basically that you are influencing court advisors each season of the year in order to gain resources to build your structures and gain troops to help defend your towns. And to do that, you're rolling and placing dice. And how you place those dice basically suggests how you're gaining your resources. And some of the resources include troops and may even include seeing what invader is going to come in the winter every year. And after gaining these resources, you can actually use them to build up the structures in your town to help protect you or to gain more victory points. There are lots of reasons that I like this game and its expansion to Forge a Realm. Much of that is also included on the newer printing of Kingsburg. A lot of the To Forge a Realm stuff is actually included within that. So nowadays, even though the original one is no longer in print, you can still get it. And I believe that's through Fantasy Flight. I could be wrong. But the game board and the pieces, especially in the original game, are beautiful and they're lively colored. And the mechanics are enjoyable. And although there's a bit going on, it's not so much that everything becomes a muddle, and it's actually pretty easy to teach. The icons are really easy to differentiate. There's a little bit of potential take that, but it's not enough to detract from the game, and I like that there are so many of the mechanisms that are based on mitigating the player who is behind or the player who may make bad rolls. That helps even out the field throughout the game and ensures that no one person really takes off and, makes the game, 4 or 5 seasons in, makes it like, oh, well, nobody's going to catch up. There's a lot of things that I really like about that. And I realize that a lot of that stuff, like I said, this is an older game, and a lot of those mechanisms have kind of made their way into other games.
Mm-hmm.
But Kingsburg has so many of them that just really grab me. And plus, on top of that, the nostalgia and sentimentality factor for it really just, kind of push it to the top of one of my favorite games to pull out.
Right. No, this is a good one. I enjoy this one.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and like I said, we have a video of it. Check out our Facebook page. You can check our Facebook page too.
You can check our Facebook page.
Well, yeah, always.
But the YouTube.
You check that YouTube site. Our YouTube channel.
Do the Google.
I'm shocked at how many of these games we actually have on our YouTube channel now. It's kind of funny.
Right.
And how many more I think I want to play to put on there. Because, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
moving on to my number 4. This is 345 in the rankings from Gale Force 9. Aaron Dillon, John Kowaleski, and Sean Swaggart are the designers. It's from 2013. 7.4 is the rating. This is probably the most thematic game I think I have on my top 10, and that is Firefly the game.
Oh, geez. Why am I not surprised on this one?
I was introduced to this game from Katie's brother and his wife, and fell in love with this game. I love this game. It doesn't get to our table as often as I'd like because it can be long.
It can be a very long game, and there's a lot of setup.
Yeah, but it is so cool to play. Yeah. I mean, because you're a captain of your ship of one of the Fireflies, or like the last game, I was one of the villains in the TV show and had his big ship to move around. But you're picking up crew at the different space bases and putting them on your ship, but you got to pay for them, and then you're using them to do the jobs, and whoever you use to do the jobs, you've got to pay them a certain amount, so it comes out of the pay you get for doing the job. And you got to have mechanics and pilots, and you got to have guns to do stuff, and you can go to the different people in the show, like Nishka and Patience
and Badger and
everybody.
Gosh.
I mean, if you've watched Firefly, you know what we're talking about.
If you are a fan of Firefly, you have to play this game at least once.
Yes,
it's a great game. It's a standard pickup and delivery game. It really is. But there's just so much more to it.
Yeah.
It can drag on. It can. I think the last game we played of it was 3 or 4 hours, and it's not like there's a lot of AP in it. There really isn't.
No.
But there's just so much to do.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come to the table often because of how long it is, but it is a good game.
It's a table hog too.
Oh my gosh, it's a table hog.
Entire table.
Yeah.
But I mean, because you're going to the different space bases, and it's like, I'm going to hire or I'm going to buy something here. So you get like the 3 cards that are already shown. You can look through that. If you don't like any of those, you can take 3 more and look at those. But if you're going to buy something, you got to pick from those for those 3 cards. There could be crew there. There could be upgrades to your ship. I mean, just different stuff. Or you go to where the other people are at to actually get the jobs from, and pick from jobs from there, from illegal runs or run other runs, and it tells you exactly what you got to do to get it and where you start your mission at, and you got to take the stuff over to this other planet to do it. Or you can go out to see what is that guy's name?
Mr. Universe.
Mr. Universe.
He
has missions that adds to your jobs.
You get bonuses on other jobs.
Bonuses on other jobs, depending on it. I mean, it's just so cool. I mean, like I said, I think it's one of my most thematic games.
It is very thematic. Yeah.
It feels like you're actually in the game.
Yeah. And they use movie stills for all the artwork. Is all movie stills. So it's
everybody that's on a card, you've seen them in the movie at one point in time.
The movie or the TV show.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're a fan of Firefly, it's a must play at least once.
3,
My number 3 is Pandemic: The Cure. Now, Pandemic is the game that got us started in this hobby. This is not the base version of Pandemic, but it is an alternate version of it. It was put out in 2014 by Z-Man Games designer Matt Leacock. Plays 2 to 5 players, roughly 30 minutes. BGG rating is a 7.3. The ranking is 366 right now. This is a dice-based version of Pandemic. And I think that's why I like it. It plays quicker than Pandemic, and it's dice. You're chucking dice. The world is split into 6 sections. So you've got 6 areas of the world, and the disease cubes. Whereas in the base game you have the 4 colors of cubes, these are 4 colors of dice, and they're specialty dice. They're not your standard 1 to 6. They look like your standard 1 to 6 dice, but when you start looking at them, they may have 2 6s or 2 5s, or they're not your standard 1 through 6. After each player's turn, you pull out the requisite number of dice out of the bag, you roll them, and then place them on the specific region as designated by the number you've rolled. So some regions can't have specific colors. You'll never roll that color because that number's not represented on the die. But it does mean that sometimes, like region 6, you may end up with a whole lot of dice on there because each of the blue dice has 2 6s on them or something like that. So if, just like in the base game, if 3 die of the same color end up in one region, then the 4th die that ends up with that number on it, just like in the parent game, it outbreaks and that new die goes to the next region over. So now you're starting to cross over and exploding. Each player has a set of their own dice, all specialty dice, and a roll that gives them the special ability, just like the base game. These dice are used to move around the board, whether you're flying across the board or you're just moving to the next region in numeric order. They are used to help treat disease. You can cure disease. Basically all the same base actions as the regular Pandemic. To win, you have to cure all 4 diseases before having too many outbreaks, or before the infection rate gets too high, or before you run out of dice in the bag. Any of those will end the game in a negative way. I really like this version. Like I said, it's a quick setup. It's a quick play. It's definitely press your luck.
Yeah.
Because as you're rolling all of your specialty die, everybody starts with 7 dice, but you roll them out. You have to assign at least one of them, but then you can pick up and re-roll the rest of them if you want to. So, but do you assign that one, and then the problem is on every dice there's a bad one, and that's what makes your infection rate go up every time you roll that symbol. The infection rate goes up by 1, and that's one way to lose the game, is if that goes up too far. So you're definitely pressing your luck every time you're picking those up to re-roll them. But at the same time, if you don't roll what you need the first time, you really need stuff to cure with. And if you are starting to cure, you get the little cure vial. That's great. You can take you can cure something, but that dice is now out of the game for a moment because you have to put it with one of the colored dice aside. And then when whoever's collecting that colored die has to roll all of them and beat a certain number on their turn before you get your dice back. So it's very interesting that way. And like I said, it's full of specialty dice, and who doesn't love specialty dice?
Yep.
So
No.
I think the cool part is on the infection rate. As the infection rate goes up, you're rolling that many more dice to put out in
every time you cross a threshold, you're rolling more
areas.
dice.
No, I admit that I actually like this. I don't know I think I actually might have liked this more than the original base game.
Yeah.
Because of the press your luck, and the press your luck aspect was like right there, kind of in your face.
Yeah.
And that draws me quite a bit.
Yeah.
Which we have a video for.
Of the base
It was
game.
our very first one of the base game.
The base game.
So go easy on us when you comment about it.
I wouldn't mind doing
I wouldn't mind doing a video on this one too. This would be a fun one to do a video on, I think, someday. So, but anyway, that's my number 3.
Yep.
My number 3 is another one that I'm going to get a little vague on. I like the Chronicles of Crime series. I'm not going to pick just one. I like the original. I like the Noir. I like the Welcome to Redview. And then the 1400, 1900, and I'm sure I'll love the 2400 once they've released it. So I'm not picking one, even though they're all a little bit different. I'm pretty much down to play any of them at any point. They're published by Lucky Duck Games. The original was published in 2018, designed by David Chuckarell. It's ranked 148, and the score was 7.8 on BGG. And again, these numbers are for the original. It's 1 to 4 players. Takes about 60 to 90 minutes per scenario. I think that's fair. It's mechanics. It's cooperative. There's scenarios and storytelling. Chronicles of Crime kind of comes with. Okay, first off, it's an app-based game. You need to have an app, and it's good for Apple and Android, so there's no discrimination.
It's a great
there.
app.
It is a good app. I'll give it that.
But you have a stack of cards that has all of these different suspects or individuals that you're going to interact with. You've got a stack of cards that represents different things that you may find at crime scenes, or items that you may notice or may be given or somebody may speak to you about. And then you have, I'm going to say, ideas. A stack, some of them are concrete things, physical things, and some of them are notions. Can't really explain it better than that. But the replayability of Chronicles of Crime gets me too, because yes, you're going to go through and you're going to play these scenarios, and that's going to be it. However, there's an entire group of, I don't know how to put it, but you can actually access fan-made scenarios. You can create your own scenarios using their scenario maker. I'm curious to see how particularly how the 1900, how they're going to leave that open for fans to make their own scenarios of that. And you go in, you solve the crime. I've never walked away from a Chronicles of Crime game feeling, like not as smart as I thought I was.
I definitely have.
Have you?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's been a couple challenging ones for me.
I will go overtime and take negatives for going overtime before I will jump in and be like, I know who it was. It was the butler in the foyer with the lead pipe. No, wrong game. But no, Chronicles of Crime. Anytime, I'm always down for that to come out and get on the table without a doubt.
Oh yeah, we just finished up the 3rd chapter of what was it? The Power Behind.
Yeah,
it was what
one of
at the heart of the power. We had a perfect score, except for the fact we couldn't remember where we had to go to solve the crime.
Oh.
We're like going, and the thing that we were trying to not let happened, but then when we remembered where to go, we got a perfect score other than that. So basically we failed because of that.
Well, we got a score of 110, so what do you want? We got everything else right. We just didn't get it right in time.
We forgot to go where we needed to go. So well. But this made number 15 for me. My list. So I really like this game.
Yeah, definitely.
But not enough to be in my top
My
10.
experiences are hit and miss on this one. I've had some that completely frustrated me and knocked it out of the list altogether. But that last one was a good one. So it's very hit and miss for me.
Detective wiped the floor with us, so that's like my bar of games that.
Yeah, Detective was tough. I will give you that.
Yeah, chapter 3 though on this one that we were just talking about, we were frustrated at the beginning of the game because what do we do? Where do we go? Because they sent us someplace and
everything was leading to dead ends.
You're like going, what do we got to do here? Where do we go? And it's like, okay, I'm just going to do this. Oh look, we found something we haven't found yet. Okay, it's leading us to this. Oh, look, another dead end. What did we miss? But yeah. Have you guys got the glasses for this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it so much better.
It
Mhm.
does.
It
It
really adds
absolutely
to it.
does.
Okay.
Right.
So
All
yeah.
right. So my number 3 is actually my highest ranked of the games. This comes in at 106, or at
Oh.
least it came in at 106 as of the time that I made my list, which means that it may actually even be in the top 100 right now. I don't know, but it should not be, because it has never been, as far as I've seen, higher than 106 when I've checked it. This is by Gray Fox Games, designed by Oli Steinus, and we have a video of it. This is Champions of Midgard. As I said, 106 on the BGG list as of when I wrote this, which was 2 days ago.
Greg's looking, isn't he?
I'm looking
Yeah.
to see what it says.
See
It
if we
is
can-
at 106.
Awesome. And it has a 7.8 rating. If there's any particular worker placement game that really hits my wheelhouse, Champions of Midgard is it, because it does two things ridiculously well that most worker placement games I played don't. It never loses its theme in the background, and it makes you send out your resources to battle and chuck dice and lose them because they die. If more Euros did this, I would not be the grumpy meeple. In Champions of Midgard, you are a leader of a Viking clan who has traveled to the embattled port to look to gain the most glory and earn the title of Jarl by the game's end. Throughout the game, you're placing workers to gain resources, gold, and warriors, and send those warriors off to take on the trolls and Draugr that are constantly attacking the village, or sending them across the sea to battle even more mythological foes and gain still more glory. You can claim your own long ship at the shipwright and gain more goals at the runesmith to complete by game ends to still earn more glory. And if you have, always keep the trolls in mind, because the town and specifically certain other players will
Yes.
blame you if
Yes.
you're not the one to take them out.
Not our
Champions of
fault.
Midgard. Champions of Midgard features die rolling, which is always a plus to any game in my mind. The board is beautiful and it's thematically colored with a nice Scandinavian runic theme all throughout that makes its way to the player boards, which show these illustrations of your Viking leader. And the illustrations are great without being overly cute or pretty. I mean, let me say that you do not want to run into any of these Viking leaders in a dark alley.
No.
The base game scales really well and has a lot of replayability. It surprised me, in fact, how well it scaled up. And there are 2 expansions that create even more customizability. So Champions of Midgard is a game that always excites me when we get it out, just because of its look and the knowledge we'll be battling all these fell creatures while we're building our resources. And there just are few games that really do that for me.
Yeah. That's all I gotta say.
Blame. Yep. Blame.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't like to be blamed.
I think Jess is going to probably end up having this at either number 1 or number 2 because she likes to blame me.
Hey, get
Personal
away with it.
responsibility
This
is not
gives
my
her-
jam.
This gives her a perfect out to lay blame at my feet.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. I'm going to go to number 3.
Mhm.
This is my ranked 3,125 from WizKids Games. It came out in 2019 from JB Howell, Michael, Mihilsik. Probably butchered that name. It's got a 7.4. We have played this a couple times with your daughter, and she loves it. She caught onto this game so fast, and that is Flotilla.
Oh. Okay.
We've only played it twice, but I really love this game, and I really wish we had a third player that would constantly play this with us.
Oh, I
I'm
think
sure
Journey would play it with us
if we
anytime we
ever
asked her.
pulled- Yeah.
Well, and
Journey
what's
is
funny,
my oldest daughter. She's not
Yes,
the 8-year-old.
I almost
No.
when he said your daughter, I'm thinking, what have we played with Lyric before?
Right.
I don't know
No,
that game.
Journey. Anyway, so in Flotilla, you start on, what is it, Seaside, correct?
Yes, everybody
Yeah,
starts seaside.
So you have your ships and you're diving to find resources and you're selling resources back to everybody. to the market. You're using the resources also to gain cards to do other actions because you're playing a card of a person and it allows you to do an action. So as you're going through, and your whole goal of the game, most of the game, is trying to get to topside. But I've heard people just play seaside.
Yeah, it's
Nobody
entirely
goes
possible
topside.
to play seaside. If everybody else goes topside, you can actually earn more
Yeah.
points by staying
But-
seaside. So
But
it's
it's a points game.
Yeah.
The one with the most points at the end of the game wins, though. But so when you're seaside, like I said, you're collecting resources and everything, and then you can take your ship back to the docks and sell your stuff, or use it to buy cards. And then at some point in the game, you decide you want to go topside. Now all your cards turn over, and you're only using the powers for this person if they were on the top. So if you're the only person on the top side, you're the only person up there, so you can't play off of other people's cards. Seaside, if everybody's seaside, there's a card that allows you to copy somebody's card that they just played, which comes in handy. There is one for topside, but somebody else has to be up topside with you. But once you're up topside, you can start actually building to the flotillas, and they score at certain points depending on how many buildings are on the flotilla. But resources now, you have to buy the resources.
yeah.
So
Whereas
There's
if
a little
you're
give and
down,
pull there, but-
yeah, if you're seaside, you are looking for the resources at the bottom of the ocean and selling them to the market. Once you're topside, you're now buying those resources from the market.
Yeah.
So it's
So-
an interesting interplay between the two sides.
So seaside, when you're selling to the market, the price of the resource goes down.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because
But
there's
when
more
you're
availability.
on topside and you're buying resources, the stock goes up. The price of it goes up. So people want people up on top, so they're buying up the resources. So the price when you go to sell it is going up. So you're going to rush in and try and sell. Okay, look, I've got all these blue ones. I'm going to get $10 per blue one. I'm rushing in there to try and sell it, but somebody else is trying to rush in there and sell it at the same time. And as soon as they sell it, it's going to go down.
Supply and demand.
Yes, supply and demand though. But if you're topside, you don't want to buy that many because you don't want them to get more points because they're selling these. It's a balance game,
Yeah.
but I really like it.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's a
it's
good one.
one
This
of
was
those
on my
really-
short list.
It's one of those really thinky games, which I like. It's pretty heavy. It takes a while to play, and for some reason, we've lately, at least I have, really enjoyed really long games, which is the next two games on my list as well. And it has been the last 4 games, because the last one was Firefly. That's a long game. This one can be 2 to 3 hours to
Oh,
play,
easy.
and my next 2 are about like that too. So
All right. Well,
we'll get there.
all right. Well, on to number 2.
2,
My number 2 is a crossover with Greg. It's the Grand Carnival, published in 2020, designed by Rob Kramer, put out by Uproarious Games. Greg's already talked about this. We've done a playthrough of it. We've deep dived it. There's not a whole lot to say on it. I like the fact that it is that double layer polyomino game. You've got your square tiles to build up your construction sites, and then you've got the polyomino tiles that you have to make fit into what you've just laid down for your construction site. So I like that dual layer fit in that it has. You've got that added pressure of trying to get your visitors to actually go to your attraction so you can get the tickets, because that scores points at the end of the game. The artwork is a lot of fun. It's very cute. The components are great. All the meeples are different cuts. So they're each player's pieces are different aspects of a carnival, which I like. Literally the only thing I would critique in this game or criticize in this game is the scoring. A lot of the scoring is a lot of all or nothing, I should say. There's no middle ground on some of the scoring, and I think you'd probably have more variation if you had a little bit of middle ground. That would honestly be my only critique of the whole game, but it obviously not much. It comes in at my number 2. So I definitely like it. One of my favorite tile lane games.
FYI, there is an expansion in the works.
Yes, there is one in the works.
I've seen some prototypes that he's shown out, and there's like a size 6 amusement.
Yeah.
So
It should be fun.
That's the only picture I've seen is the size 6 he's trying to fit in. I was like, holy cow, 5s are hard to get out there as it is. Now you're gonna have a size 6 to get.
Yep.
So it'll be cool to see what he adds.
Yep. All right, that's my number 2.
My number 2 was almost a crossover with one of Mark's. Having to choose, I like Folklore the Affliction. It's a little dark, so I ended up going for Sea of Legends because it's just a little more campy and bright. And don't get me wrong, I like my dark horror, and I'm having second thoughts as to where I could have fit Folklore in, but Sea of Legends is a new game. We backed it on Kickstarter and just received it not that long ago. It's from Guildhall Studios. It was published 2021. It has over 30 designers credited, so y'all just gonna deal with that. I'm not doing this. And it ranks 6,155 on BGG with a 7.4.
But it's
1 to
brand
4
new.
players.
It'll
It takes
probably
40 to I wrote it down. I think it says 160 minutes. Its
3
mechanics
hours.
are dice rolling, narrative choice, paragraphs, and storytelling. We've talked about Sea of Legends before in one of our podcasts previously, but the thing with it is you've got this map that you are traveling on, and you're a pirate captain, and you get to choose a lover, and you get to choose an enemy. They're not just called enemy, nemesis. You have a lover and you have a nemesis, and then you've got interactions with the factions that are coming up against you, the bad guys that are coming up against you. And I mean, we've had terrible sea monsters, we've had undead, and you have more than one faction coming out to get you. And of course, then there's always the my brain has stopped working. The bottom line is that as you go along, you have choices to make, and it's an app-based game. So you get to a point where it's like, are you going to follow? You're at a place where the app is tracked that your lover is going to be at, but you also have an ongoing story based on your nemesis or on one of the threats that are coming at you. Which one of these storylines do you want to follow? And it keeps track. And like I've said before, when we started the game and then had something come up and we had to stop, and then the next day we started it again, even though literally everything was the same, the storyline changed. My choices were different. The replayability of this is great. Now the app's new, so it's had some bumps, but they've been releasing updates, and it's just a fantastic game, and it's got a little camp to it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a game that, again, looking at the time, it's a commitment, but I think it's a great use of anybody's time.
Yeah, no, absolutely agreed on that. This did not quite hit into my top 10. It was on my short list. But I think the only reason that it didn't was because we've only played it a couple times, so we haven't had a chance to really play it a lot. And I'm sure the more we play it, the more we're going to enjoy it. I've been ecstatic with it so far. This is one of the ones I've been very happy about us backing.
And the minis. Cool. Oh my gosh, the minis. I like to preface it. Like at the very beginning, I said that some of these games that are going to be on my list are maybe very new, and maybe we haven't played them a lot. So the new shiny aspect may be weighing heavily on some of my decisions, but I don't know. I feel pretty solid about that one.
Yeah, definitely. Well, my number 2 is a crossover with Jess. And just like Jess, I am cheating something fierce because there is no way I am going to pick a single one of the Hexplore series to call my number 2. It's by Mariucci J Designs, designed, we went over this I think already, by Kat Kimandre, Nathan Luce, and Jonathan Mariucci. It's been released almost one a year from 2017 to 2020. Valley of the Dead King was 2017, I believe, on the BGG Top 100. Forest of Adramons was 3460, but it has a Valley of the Dead King has a 7.8 rating. Forest of Adramon was rated lower or ranked lower at 3460, but has an 8.0 rating. And Sands of Shurax was ranked 5804, but has an 8.3 rating. So, according to BGG, at least, these games have been getting better the more that these guys have gotten into it. We actually we found Hexplorer about 3 years ago, and I was intrigued enough because my holy grail, as I've always said, has been finding the perfect RPG in a box, where me and Jess can both play as players. We don't have to have one of us being the GM, one of us or pulling an outside GM to run a story for us. So and it gives us the opportunity to cooperatively take on a more narrative quest rather than just moving dudes around on a map and sniping our way with pluses and bonuses to victory. Hexplorer does that better than most of the games that I've managed to find yet. I like most of the components for it. The dry erase mats are nice and thick. There has been a little bit of warping here and there on some of ours, but I think that's just due to how we've stacked them up, and we're going to probably end up putting a lot of the stuff in the hero chest eventually that will kind of help keep that down. I like that both games kind of work themselves on a timer, in that, the original Valley of the Dead King, you're moving around and trying to build yourself up before the Dead King takes over so many cities and then comes after you. And each time the Dead King takes over a city, he gets more powerful, and, well, actually not so much more powerful, but faster. So that's kind of a cool timer thing. The Forest of Adramon thing, Adramon can actually mind wipe your characters if you don't build up fast enough. So that's actually a cool little timer, despite the fact that she's mostly in the background throughout the entire thing. And then Sands of Shurax, you've got a sandworm that will be gaining strength throughout the game. We haven't gone into that too much yet. It's supposedly the most complex of the Hexplorets, and the new one that we talked about last podcast that just finished up on GameFound, I think it broke 500,000 on its pledge goals. That one's going to be kind of I don't want to say back to basics, but as far as its complexity, they say it's going to be one of the more easy ones. So we're looking forward to that. And there are a few flaws with the Hexplorer series, and I'm not gonna try to gloss those. It is a long game, it is a commitment, but then again, no more than your basic D&D session. And much like your basic D&D session, a lot of your character exists in your mind. It's not, yes, they have pictures on the backs of the player mats, but I mean those are just kind of giving examples of their races and roles. It's not specifically your character, so to speak. It does have language dependence because of it being kind of a narrative storytelling game throughout, even though there are, it's not specifically set up as a narrative storytelling game, but there's a lot of narrative throughout it. But then again, to me, most of those feel like the flavor text in your basic RPG modules, and battles do tend to be kind of math centric. You have an idea how much damage you're doing, and I'd prefer a little bit more randomness in it. But I mean, just the playthrough that we had over here, there was a lot of adding the hexploding dice to it, which could really, suddenly increase your damage. So, I mean, yes, it's not without flaws, but it's by far like my favorite of the fantasy RPG and a box type games that I've run into so far. I'm willing to be proven otherwise as soon as other ones come out or ones that I've missed. But right now, Hexplore, it does it for me in ways that nobody else has managed to do. And it helps that the guys behind it, they have been when I've emailed them, they have been very, quick to come back and, helpful. We had one box that got messed up in the mailing when we first got it, because we got it secondhand. And so I sent a mail off to them and I was like, hey, we really like this, but the box got a little bit messed up. Is there any way that you guys can send it? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. It's on its way. So
Nice.
that would, their customer service has been really good too. For a smaller company, I've been very happy with them.
Nice. Okay, moving along. My number 2 is 413 on the BGG rank. This is from Board and Dice Games. Came out in 2020. It's 7.9 rating. It's from Daniel Tassini and David Turtsey. David Turtsey is starting to become one of my favorite designers. I mean, he's almost at Feld level, I think. He's also the one that I had commented about a game in the on a Facebook page.
Totally
they were
called
talking
you out.
about what was it? It's Tawa Tetsuyu.
I don't know how to pronounce
It's
that
one of the T games though, and it was somebody else that posted about it, and everybody's giving an opinion. It was like, going, yeah, this is the game. I like most of the games in the T series, but this one just doesn't grab me. I'm just not interested. And David actually came on and commented to me and goes, what can I do to change your mind? I'm like,
Send us a free copy.
right. Well, you can play the game on Board Game Arena for free. So
Not the
that
same.
was his
Not
but
the same.
I did, through that whole conversation with him, though, I did find out that he has an expansion coming up. He's working on an expansion for this game. By his reply to my question for it was maybe. But that is Tekenu, Obelisk of the Sun. This game, I fell in love with this game. It's the first time we played it. I've loved this game. It's a long game. It actually works in like a rondel because you're moving around the board depending on your dice and stuff. But you're doing so much because you're drafting dice that allow you to do certain things in certain areas depending on where you drafted it around the obelisk. So because you can like build a temple and the temples can go in certain areas, and if you build a temple near the obelisk, you get things when people actually draft another dice from that same area, or you're going to score extra points up in where you're building your buildings at, your monuments at. It's just a really fun game. There's other places where you're getting resources to build things, or you can take the dice and just get it for the resource of the color it is. The potency of the dice will change depending on how the obelisk turns. So like a black dice isn't worth anything when the sun is fully on it, but a brown dice is like worth half of it or something like that. I can't remember. It's been a little bit though since we played this.
Yeah, we haven't gotten a chance to play it recently.
We've been playing some of the new games, trying to get those out. But I really like this one. And David Turtsey has really started to come out with a bunch of great games. So he's got another one that's getting ready to come out. That's getting ready to come on Kickstarter. I'll be interested to see how it plays. But yeah, this is Tekenu, Obelisk of the Sun. So if you like doing dice drafting, this is a really fun game
This
to
is
play.
a good one.
1.
So
Okay, we are at number 1. Gosh, okay. And my number 1, which probably will not surprise anybody, is a crossover so far with both Mark and Greg. Gosh, guys, any hint? Yeah.
that's a 3-way
Wow.
crossover.
This is a 3-way crossover so far. All right, so this is It's a Wonderful World. Again, we've talked about this one already, put out in 2019, 1 to 5 players, 30 to 60 minutes, ranks at 146 on the BGG rankings. This, I'm not going to go into it again. We've covered this a few times now. I really love the puzzly aspect of this game.
Mhm.
That seems to be a theme with me. I like puzzly games. But I like being able to figure out which buildings I want to keep versus which ones I need to turn in for resources. Or yeah, it's just, it trying to think what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Gosh, I just totally completely derailed.
Blank out.
Yes, right. Anyway, so yeah, I like being able to figure out which ones to keep versus which ones I can give up in order to get the resources they provide for scrapping them.
Or which ones you can give up just to hurt other players.
Yes, that too. Yes.
That would be me.
Well, and there's always the ones that you just know you're not going to get built in time. You might as well take the resources.
Right.
So yeah,
other people could use them.
Yeah.
True
Because
that.
if you get it first in the draft, heck
That
yeah.
never happens.
No, I don't hate draft. I don't have time to look at what you're doing. All right. So that's my number one.
Now, I'd really
Very
like to
just.
say that my number one cements this awesome 4-way tie.
But no.
Honestly, I completely forgotten that It's a Wonderful World existed when I did this list. I guess.
Oh no.
Never
Oh.
even made it onto my list. So
This was my thoughts of a 5-way crossover. The only one
Yeah,
we
this
did
is
It
crossover.
would be a 5-way.
literally, I just Miniature Market was like, happy birthday, here's a $10 off $50 purchase. And I went and got the last expansion for It's a Wonderful World and the fiery expansion for the Jim Henson Labyrinth game. And and so I mean it's not like I don't like this game. I do, and I'm very sorry for letting the team down. But my number one is still a crossover. And how it's my number one, I get it, but I'm blaming Pub Meeple because I wouldn't have thought it would have been my number one. But the only reason why it must be my number one is because of how much I like to blame my husband. So my number one apparently is Champions of Midgard. And he's already gone over all of it, and I don't know, but it won out. And I mean, I do really like the game, and we've got the expansions for it, and I'm stoked to finally get a chance to play the expansions for it. I went out and I ordered all of the little fancy wooden things that look like food.
Those are awesome.
Fancy meats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you when we did our playthrough video of this? Those came in literally the day after we did our playthrough.
Yes.
Yeah, you
I
talked
was
about
so
it on
mad.
that podcast.
Oh, I did. Okay. Yeah, I was so
Yeah.
mad.
But yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
I don't really have too terribly much to say, but about
Yeah.
it because it's already been said. But yeah, apparently,
Yeah.
I do really like Champions of Midgard. I'm just surprised it beat out so many of the
Yeah.
others. But
So you haven't played it with Valhalla yet?
I
No, we
have
have
not.
Oh, you won't play it again without it.
No.
I have as many times as I end up sacrificing
This
and
one
murdering
is-
murdering dice.
Yep.
It would be great
Yeah.
to have a use for them afterwards.
Yeah, the next time we play it, we'll be playing with it from
Oh,
here
yeah.
on out. So
Yeah.
All right, Mark,
Ready.
what's your
All
number
right.
one?
Okay, so before I throw in my number one, I want to throw out some strange oddities. First and foremost, there were absolutely no games by Stefan Feld, Uwe Rosenberg, or Bruno Cathala on my top 10
Yeah.
whatsoever.
I didn't have any on mine either, which surprised me.
Which, granted, yes, some of the games that I really like by those designers, Castles of Burgundy,
Yeah.
Feast for Odin, those were in the top 100.
Exactly.
So that was why those were disqualified.
Yeah.
I also wanted to call out some games that almost made it. Reckoners almost made it. That was really close for me.
Yes.
Dinosaur Island was really close for me. Runebound 3E. That all three of those games were really close. Paperback was another one. I think I had mentioned that earlier. That came like right on the coattails of the top 10. But my number one is a crossover with Jess, and just like Jess did with that one, I'm completely cheating again because I have pulled the entire Chronicles of Crime series from Lucky Duck Games. Later iterations are created by David Cicero and Wojciech Grachowski, which I apologize, Wojciech. I have completely butchered your name, I'm sure. Done from 2018 to 2021. The base game was a 147, was ranked 147. It has a 7.8. Chronicles of Crime 1400 is ranked 1323 and has an 8.0. And 1900 is ranked 5450 and has an 8.2. So much like Explore It. Now, granted, a lot of those are the newness factor, so that may wipe off a little bit in time. But if you had told me 5 years ago that an app-centered game would make my top 10 list, let alone be on top of it, I would have laughed at you, because no, apps do not belong with my board games. That's like cell phones and RPG sessions. All they exist for is to cause problems. And then Lucky Duck came around and they created a detective game like Chronicles of Crime, and everything changed. I mean, the app is slick. It works well. I love the 360 actually moving around. Now, granted, yes, you can swipe, but that's for boring people. You should be standing up and moving around with your phone to try to look at this whole 360 panorama of the crime scene. If you're one of those people swiping, you're doing it wrong. I don't care what you say.
Good swipe.
Yes, you can. Yeah, Tom Bassel showed that you can swipe, and I'm sorry, Tom, that is wrong. You
Not
do
in his
not
house.
do that. So, Chronicles of Crime series, that's my number one.
Awesome. Okay. My number one is actually a crossover with Katie. So that's what, 2 games we crossovered with?
We crossed
3
over
games.
6.
3, yeah, because you did Castles Making Ludwig too,
Yeah.
right? And it's a wonderful.
Oh, this is 4 then, because we also did. Oh gosh, darn it. Anyway, go ahead.
Another one on my list that's on your list. So Grand Carnival, Imminent
Grand
Domain.
Carnival.
Oh yeah, Grand Carnival.
Yeah. Anyway, what's your number 1?
It is The Colonist.
Ah, okay.
This game here is what got me into liking long thought out brain burning games. It's just fun to play. I mean, you get out of this game once you're done. It's another game that if you've played all 4 eras in usually 8 hours, but it can be shorter. You get out of this game and you feel like you've done something, and your brain hurts because of all the planning, because you're moving your people, this person around to get the resources you need to be able to build this next building, and you're making sure everybody has food. And yeah, it's a really fun game. But if you don't really like long games, it's not a game for you, or really long heavy games, but it's a blast. But yeah, The Colonists is my number 1. Okay, let's move over to see what people said. We had like I said earlier, we went on social media sites, dropped a question in, see what came out. So we actually had a 14-way tie for just 6th place. So there's no true number 10 and so on. But for 6th place that was tied, these are the games that were tied on it. We have Yokohama, one of my games. It was in my top 15. Zaya Legends of the Drift. Tyrants of the Underdark. Tricarian, which is a game I'd like to play. Stone Age, good game, not in my top. Splendor, which it's a good basic game. Quest for El Dorado, a game that I'd like to play. Yeah. And then Jessica ruined this 5-way crossover. It's a Wonderful World.
Always glad to disappoint.
Istanbul, which is another really cool game.
Oh, I love that game.
Well sought out game for me. We got it and we've played the heck out of it. We got all the expansions for it. Horrified, which I haven't played, but I really haven't had the interest to play.
No, same here.
Gizmos, I've heard really cool, but haven't had the desire to play. Cosmic Encounters, we've played once and it's okay. It's not the save all game like Tom Vassell says. Coimbra, which is another really good game we've played. This is actually on our list to play. And Carcassonne, which is another really cool game.
No.
I've had it since the beginning. Okay, so coming in 5th was Star Realms. We have not played that game. This one a lot of people play on the app. Okay. Tied for 3rd is Parks, which we've looked at a few times, but we've yet to pick it up. it just seems like there's too much money involved in that one to pick just a simple game like that up. The tie was with Res Arcana, which is, I know you guys have it.
That's a good game.
Mhm.
It didn't make my top. It didn't make my top probably 15, but it's still a good game.
Mm-hmm. And number 2 was Space Base. This is a game that's kind of like Machikoro.
Okay.
So it's a card game. It has 2 expansions for it now, I think. 2 or 3. I mean, one of their expansions is Shy Pluto. Okay. And then the number 1 game that's not in the top 100, it had 2.06% of the votes, was Raja the Ganges. This has been on one of my lists to play and to buy for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in getting it. I almost bought it last week for my birthday, but I found another game I wanted more instead. So it made the cut. Didn't make the cut on that one though, but it's still a game I really want to play. So.
All right. Well.
Yep.
So I guess we should have written a closing now, shouldn't we?
Right. Maybe. Yeah.
Yes.
Our top 10 outside of the BGG top 100. So please, by all means, send us any notes, details, any questions or comments you may have on that.
I'm going to post these all on the BGG Guild.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Everybody can post theirs if they want to go out there and post theirs.
And they can tell us how bad we are. I'm sure.
Give us your opinions.
That's what the internet is for.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
All righty.
Don't forget about our merchandise.
Oh gosh, yeah. Don't forget about merchandise.
Yeah,
I'm telling
like
you.
hats.
Hey, yes,
Hats.
we have new hats. Oh, is that the new hat? I haven't even seen the new hat yet.
That is the new hat.
Nice. I gotta order Greg one.
I didn't realize we were going to be recording video today, so I didn't wear mine.
I wore mine.
I know everybody else is wearing their Meeple Society t-shirt.
There you go. See?
My t-shirt's so cool. It's the analysis paralysis t-shirt that
Yours-
I shared on our Facebook group.
Totally works with the theme.
It does.
Totally.
It's purple too. So
There you go. See?
And with that, we bring to a close another meeting of the Meeple Society here on the SIA Network. Thank you to Justin and Jacob, our producers, sound engineers, and top 10 people themselves. Thanks to the SIA Network for giving us our place to top shop, and especially to each and every one of you, the listeners. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, the BGG Guild 3821, the Meeple Society, Facebook, the Meeple Society, on Instagram, the Meeple Society. On Instagram, SIA the Meeple Society, on Twitter at SIA Meeples, our YouTube channel, the Meeple Society, and contact us by email at meeplesociety@mail.com. See our written game reviews of the SIA Network, www.thesianetwork.com. Hit the More tab at the top and click on Board Games. Thank you again, and we will see you all at the next meeting.